Want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogman, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on SUBSTACK. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. How's everybody doing? Good? Everything is good over here. Like I said last week, it's starting finally to get a little bit nippy at night. And it's like everything, when the brutal summer, everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to get a little bit cool. And then every time I step outside, it's like, man, this is really getting cold. But I like it. I like it. It's still, it's, what can I say? It's one of those things. I'm a weather wimp, no doubt about it. But besides that, everything is good. Today, getting ready, I was looking at Thanksgiving, what are we going to do for Thanksgiving? What are we going to make? Okay, wait a minute. I have, of course, one of my little dogs that decides that she's trying to scratch her way to China. But anyway, yeah, looking at the stuff for Thanksgiving. And I went and I saw at a store that begins with a W. And it never fails. For once, I was going to buy an inflatable. And the only reason I want to do this, one of those big inflatables that you put in your yard, is they have one that's a cow with a Christmas with a Santa Claus hat. I've never seen that. And of course, it's the one. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't find it. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not the only one that thinks this is really cute. This is pretty big. It's a pretty big inflatable. No, so now that's Marlene's missions. I got to track one of those things down. So I could tell, especially when you live out like in farm areas like where I live at. I'm thinking this is a hit. Yeah, everybody wants one of these. But anyway, let's look at the this week's article. Okay, and you need to this is out of Esquire. Okay, and this this is a kind of like a follow-up, because lately I've with this thing of Annabelle. You remember a few weeks ago, well, no, as a matter of fact, it was back in August that they had the death of somebody, I think it's Dan Rivera, that was on tour with the doll. And then it went all downhill from there. And I reported that the Conjuring house went up for auction on October 31st. And it went up for auction because apparently the person that had bought the Conjuring house kind of got messed up, wasn't paying her people, got, I think, in trouble with the local government, got licenses rescinded because I guess all the bottom line didn't pay it. I don't know what happened to it when it went up for. Oh, and one thing she told one of the managers or one of the persons or somebody that she hadn't paid one of the personnel because the spirits had told her that person was stealing from them. I was like, nah, that's not good. You got to pay your people. But anyway, I don't know what the outcome of it is. But this thing with the Annabelle, they're coming out with a new movie. And I believe somebody bought it. The original, like I said, the original Annabelle, which is a Raggedy Ann doll. It's not the one you see in the movies. They couldn't replicate the Raggedy Ann doll because I believe the manufacturer said, no, you can't make our Raggedy Ann. So that's why they have that scary looking doll. But I believe the museum, the Warrens Museum, including the original doll, has been sold. And I think they were going to take it up to Maine and they were going to tour with it, something like that. But anyway, this thing with the real life haunting of Annabelle, everybody gets caught up with the storyline of The Conjuring. And they forget that there is a true backstory of how she came into the original non-scary doll into the possession of the Warrens. So here we go. This is the real life haunting of Annabelle, a doll possessed. She's become a pulp culture icon, a star in the Conjuring film universe, helping to generate billions of dollars. But the doll that inspired the movies is now wreaking havoc on the very family of ghost hunters that discovered her. See, there she is, Raggedy Ann. Very scary, right? Annabelle is sitting bolt upright in the back of her tour van, gliding down Interstate 80 towards Rock Island, Illinois, a town perched on the Mississippi River. In a few hours, Annabelle will lead a meet and greet with fans from across the Midwest. The event follows headline shows in Maine, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Louisiana. Her strawberry lace hair falls onto her floral dress. Her saucer plate eyes stare straight ahead, a smile is etched on her face. She is always smiling. Annabelle is not a pop star. In fact, she's not even human. Annabelle is a 3-foot-high, tattered Raggedy Ann doll, obtained in quarantine by American paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. In the 1970s, she enjoyed a modest amount of fame, which was eclipsed 40 years later when she became a key character in the Conjuring universe. Since 2013, the movies have spawned 9 sequels. I didn't know it had 9 sequels. Wow. Including Annabelle, Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. They've earned more than $2.8 billion, making them the highest grossing horror franchise of all time. The Conjuring Last Rites, released in September of this year, has already taken in close to $500 million on its own. According to paranormal enthusiasts, Annabelle is diabolically evil, one of the most haunted artifacts in the world, capable of wreaking havoc on any unfortunate souls who find themselves in her field of influence. It's why a team of handlers, which includes a priest, chaperones her from town to town in a cabinet, emblazoned with a hand-painted sign reading, "Warning, positively do not open." The person who built the box, one of Annabelle's handlers, dropped dead recently. In the van heading to Rock Island, the box is covered with a midnight black sheet and a baby blue blanket wedged next to a bag of chili heat wave Doritos. So let's see. For those watching the video version of this, they're showing pictures of the members of NESPR, the group behind the Devils on the Run tour. Dan Rivera was the gentleman, I believe, that died. He's the one there on the left. Shown or left from left, Dan Rivera, Chris Gilliran, Tony Spira, and a fourth member named Wade Kirby. The road trip is part of the Devils on the Run tour, which began in May at a former penitentiary in West Virginia that's said to be haunted. Imagine it's got to be Moundsville. But anyway, organized by the New England Society for Psychic Research, a group founded by the Warrens in 1952, the tour gives curiosity seekers a chance to view a range of supernatural, ephemera at paranormal conventions across the U.S. The showings take place in a pop-up version of the Warrens Occult Museum, and items include a haunted piano from the home of a tormented priest, a so-called conjuring mirror to summon spirits, and the shadow doll, which infiltrates dreams with insidious nightmares. Tens of thousands of people are paying around $50 on top of the cost to enter the convention to stand mere feet away from Annabelle, locking eyes with his girlish manifestation of devilry. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, yes, yes. More than 50 years after she... Okay. Okay, it says here, if wholesome, somewhat creepy fun for the whole family, but behind the scenes, Annabelle has left a trail of destruction in her wake. More than 50 years after she materialized, the doll is at the center of a bitter disagreement that's torn apart the surviving family of the Warrens, splintered paranormal research groups, and unleashed personal demons that the public views. She is truly a cursed object. Sometimes you never know how that curse is going to work out. Okay, Chris McKinnell, the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren, knows Annabelle well. After all, she was part of the family. I remember seeing it in the box and being terrified of it, he says. At the Warrens Museum, which was in the basement of their Connecticut home, she received special treatment. Out of not adoration, McKinnell says Lorraine despised the doll, but fear. All the other artifacts were laid out to touch except for Annabelle, he says. It was the only thing that was bound. McKinnell, 61, is a soft-spoken man who has traveled to more than 140 countries investigating paranormal cases. 10,045 years, he says. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Apparently, yeah, he's been involved with the family business, the Warren family business, it's saying here, since he was 16 years old. And his grandfather took him on a case in Massachusetts Inside the house, he witnessed dark, hulking shapes running down the stairs and pounding that shook the walls. He still hunts people's ghosts for free and is working on an Anthony Bourdain meets the paranormal kind of program for TV. For TV. Today he lives in Paraguay. Paraguay? Okay. The story of Annabelle begins with a nursing student. That's what I was looking for. Whom McKinnell calls Debbie. She lived in an apartment in Hartford, Connecticut with another student named Lara Clifton. Debbie received a doll as a gift. In the spirit of playfulness, they treated the toy as if it were real, sitting it at the table for breakfast, sleeping next to it, and talking to it. One day in 1970, the doll's arms levitated up onto the table. This was the age of Aquarius, McKinnell says. They were like, oh wow, there must be a spirit in the doll. According to Gerald Brittle's 1980 book, The Demonologist, The Extraordinary Career of Anne Lorraine Warren, the doll began to move from room to room and write a series of notes on parchment paper with messages including help us. Us, like in plural, okay. After a few weeks of increasingly bizarre events, the roommates contacted a local medium who, after a series of seances, had a vision that a little girl called Annabelle Higgins had died on the land that the house was built on years ago and was looking for a family to love her. The roommates named the doll Annabelle. This was, McKinnell insists, a terrible mistake. They gave this thing personality and a story and a scaffolding to build on. Fear creates evil, he says. It's why we don't get manifestations of Santa Claus. Despite the spooky context, or maybe because of it, the women's infatuation with Annabelle grew. They bought her a bracelet, babied her, and essentially treated her as their daughter. Then even weirder things started to happen. Cal Randall, the boyfriend of Lara Clifton, said that Annabelle had started to enter his dreams and strangle him in his sleep. Later, he suffered an actual physical attack with claw marks on his chest that rapidly faded. Eventually, the Warrens were brought onto the case. At the apartment, Ed Warren invited a local Episcopal priest and delivered his own sermon on the nature of Annabelle. There is no Annabelle, Warren said, according to Brittle's book. There never was. You were duped. However, we are dealing with a spirit here. Influenced by the medium, the women, by bestowing recognition on the doll, had essentially given a spirit permission to take over the Raggedy Ann. The priest spent about 5 minutes in each room performing an exorcism and then did one on each person. At the owner's request, the Warrens took Annabelle to their home. On the way back, according to Brittle, their car stalled and the brakes failed, all because of the vicious hatred of Annabelle. Of course, the most logical next step would be to burn the doll to a crisp and run for the hills. But Brill explains that if the profane item wasn't contained, it would teleport back to the girl's apartment. Hold on. It's my child. Uh, all right, let's see. But he doesn't think she's omnipotent. Annabelle is dangerous if your energy interacts with its energy. He says it's not an all-powerful being, but you have to treat it like a cobra. Don't get close enough to get hurt. He sees Annabelle as a tulpa, which I'm very familiar with tulpas, and I don't know about that thing about being a tulpa, but anyway, a Tibetan word used in this case to describe an entity created through the power of the imagination. And like many in his field, he is adamant that he accepts demonic activities only when evidence is concrete. Most of the time, it's not the devil come knocking, it's probably your grandmother letting you know she's there. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, if you want to read the rest of the article, it's a pretty lengthy article. Like I said, it was just published a few days ago, October 30th, on Esquire, if you guys want to read the rest of it. But I wanted to get to that part about the actual, everybody's looking at that demonic looking, doll in the movie, and it's not that. I mean, when you look at it, this thing is anything but scary until you know the backstory on it. But there you go. So anyway, let's get on to the good part. Maybe we can ask the guest here today about this about this very subject. Okay, he's been here before in Stories of the Supernatural. His name is Rich Valdes. He's a demonologist, speaker, paranormal investigator, podcaster, TV personality, a man with many hats. He's a regular cast member for Travel Channel, Discovery Plus, and Max Eli Roth presents The Legion of Exorcists, which streams on Max and Discovery. He's the owner and CEO of the Paranormal Clergy Institute. He's also a former resident of Religious Demonologist for the United States Old Catholic Church. He was a creator and host of Greetings from Beyond the Radio podcast, and he published an American Paranormal magazine, August 2023, amongst other. All right. He's a published photographer, Imagination, the Arts magazine. He and his team have been mentioned in books such as Ghost Hunters of the South, representing the state of Florida, and State by State, representing the state of Louisiana. He's been involved in the paranormal field for 40 years. He's a formally trained religious demonologist for 37 years. He's the owner and head director of Paranormal Clergy Institute, which was created in 2000. He joined the PCI in 2010 and was then given ownership to him in 2020. He is a recognized demonologist by 3 different religious organizations. He's also a former member of John Zaffis' team, PRSNE, for the state of Florida. And again, and I'm sure you've seen it, in the hit TV show Eli Roth presents the Legion of Exorcists in episode 6. So help me, welcome him. How are you doing today, Bridge? Let me
I'm doing
unmute you.
good. Yeah, that would help.
That would help,
I'm
right?
good. How are you?
Let me
Yeah.
good, good, good. Let me ask you something. We'll get off of this, but this whole this thing of the conjuring doll or the
Mhm.
Annabelle. What do you think about that? Do you think these women were duped when they back in 1970 they had some medium come in and tell them it's a little girl that died on the land, and they kind of like, I'm thinking of the word, they asked for something to invade it? Or what do you think happened there?
Uh, I really don't know much when it comes to the Annabelle doll. All I
Mhm.
really do know is from what I've been told from John Zaffis, who
Mhm.
happened to be the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Right.
Um, he believes there is something demonic attached to it. I personally have never been around it. I have been
Okay.
around dolls uh, that are possessed by something or have something attached to it,
Right.
like Robert the Doll, which
Yes.
is in Key West in the East Martello Museum.
Mhm.
And I have had experiences there. You know, people tend to think that since it's an inanimate object, that it can't house something
Right.
spiritual, but it actually can. And ultimately you need to think of it.
I lost you.
And,
Okay, I lost you for a
oh,
minute. Okay, you're back. You're back. Okay.
okay.
Go ahead. Keep going.
People need to realize that spirits are energy,
Mhm.
and ultimately, in the end, that energy can maintain itself as part of something or someone or an area. So it's often very difficult to get rid of something unless it actually is removed forcefully,
Mhm.
or if it chooses to leave. If it no longer serves, you know, wherever it's attached to serves a purpose, it chooses to leave and finds another host or another place to actually uh, haunt, if you will.
Okay. Well, because this one, I mean, I'm sure that, in the describe it of all the items that the Warrens had in their museum, this is the one that they kept like locked away in a cabinet kind of deal. Like, don't
Yeah.
touch it. Don't.
What I do know is in during the time that Ed and Lorraine Warren were alive,
Mhm.
what I do know is they would very, very sparingly show the doll. In other words, take it out
Right.
and about. They preferred that it would stay in the museum. It was
Mhm.
only after a few years that, I'm not going to name names, someone that inherited uh, the museum started taking it out and for whatever reason went against their wishes. I, like I stated, all I do know really is from what John has told me in the past.
Mhm.
It does have something malevolent attached to it, much like what I experienced with Robert the Doll back in 2004, locked up in the East Martello Museum. There's definitely something dark, attached to that doll, and ultimately, it's 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 the burning question that never gets quenched, because you can ask and ask and ask, and you may get answers, but ultimately, just like it stated in that article that you were reading earlier,
Mhm.
they got duped. into thinking that it was Annabelle, the spirit of a little girl, when in fact it was something demonic. And that tends to happen a lot.
Yes, right. I know
They
that yeah, it's like,
they'll never say hi, hey, boo, I'm a demon. They
of course
have to
not.
disguise themselves as something harmless. And we
Yeah.
discussed this the last time that I was on the
Yeah, yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah. This was everybody thinks, "Oh, it's a little kid. Oh, poor kid."
Yeah,
That's what. And I guess my question is, part of it is sometimes I look at this like they're saying, "Okay, this thing is not omnipotent." But now it's touring,
yeah.
you know? And I think to myself, "Man, how safe is it? Like, how safe is it to be in the proximity of this thing?" You see what I'm saying?
Uh,
And the reason
Personally,
why I also
I
say I think it also
yeah,
it might even feed off the people that come to see it depending on what's going on with them spiritually. You know what I'm saying?
it
But
feeds off if it's demonic, and I'm not
mhm,
saying it is or it isn't. If it
right.
is demonic, I can guarantee you it's going to feed off of fear.
Yeah.
Um, one of many people that I learned from.
Mhm.
He's recently passed away as of early this year. His name is Paulino. And
Paulino
he,
died?
yes, yes,
Oh
he
my God,
passed
I
away.
didn't know that. You know what? It was the other day I was thinking about him and I was thinking, "Oh my God, I gotta call Paul and have him come back." I didn't know that.
Yeah, he passed
Oh.
away. And he was one person that I could always count on when it came to getting,
Oh
information,
man,
learning
he
from.
would.
I
He
mean, this
had
is
a I'm really
he
upset
was
about this.
he was studying to be a priest and
Mhm.
actually working with Ed and Lorraine Warren
Yeah, he was a very
for many, many
level-headed
years.
person though.
Very level-headed. And I always appreciated my conversations with him. I actually had a little stint there on his show where I would just simply do field work for him and report on paranormal happenings throughout the world or throughout the United States. And he was a great, I'd say, addition to
Yes.
what we have developed within the paranormal field.
Oh, no, no,
And one of the
absolutely.
trailblazers.
He wasn't into sensationalism or anything.
No, not at all.
He was like called it like if he told you something, you could take it to the bank. Let me ask you, is his son going to continue with I believe it was a podcast or the radio show, or you don't know?
I'm not sure. I think I
Okay.
know for sure that since when he really got sick, they had canceled or postponed the show for a while because
Mhm.
he couldn't even speak. He
Okay.
couldn't really do much of anything. I'm not sure what his son has done since then.
Okay.
But I would like to think his son would take over. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll follow up on that. I'm very sorry
Yeah.
to hear that. But yes, and I remember him describing that when he was still in the seminary was when he got first exposed. He went on I can't remember, it was I know it was in New England. I want to say Boston, but it's not Boston. Some small town that the girl was there was some people poltergeist, very significant
Oh yes.
poltergeist activity. And he witnessed, I think he told me like a refrigerator, something heavy move and shift. And
Yeah.
there was several witnesses, police people, people like there was people that all witnessed what was going on. And he says that that was his first exposure to really seeing a supernatural. In other words, like it was like, what? Like in other words, it wasn't something like you could say, there was wrapping on the wall, but it could have been anybody. It was something that there's no way you can have faked this. It was such
Right.
a heavy item. Yeah, I remember that
There, I
story.
own actually three of the books,
Hmm.
first books that he wrote, that he sent to me, autographed and everything. And I remember I believe I know which one you're speaking of, and you wrote about it. It's a
Hmm.
poltergeist case, and I
Right.
do believe it was somewhere in New England. It seems like
Right. He
everything.
was still a seminary student. He was still a seminary
Yeah, he
student.
was
This
still a
was when he
seminary story student, but it seems like everything is always around New England. I don't even want to visit New England if that's the
I
case.
know New England is like
You know,
well, you know
I mean,
what? That
even
even
my
Malachi Martin, that he was supposedly the story told was that he had gone right before he died, he had gone to a supposed case of a possessed child, and that like a couple of days or within days of him going to visit the family somewhere in New England, of course, and he lived in New York. It was when he took the fall from that stool, and he hit his head, and of course he passed on. And there were people that saying, "Well, because I want," it was just an accident, and there was other people that saying, um, was his
Faith.
involvement with.
Well, the involvement, yes. I've experienced this often.
Mhm.
This is nothing new. If there's something truly demonic, and I say,
Right.
as I've said before, and I'll always say it, it's very rare. If there's something demonic before, during, and after, there will be activity. They will be trying to stop you because they know it's not you per se,
Mhm.
it's what you bring with you
Sure.
that can stop them. And it forces individuals like myself, and I'm well studied into this for now for well over 40 years. And I can tell you, you have to continuously study, you need to dig, and
Mhm.
you need to look into things that are tabooish, because
Sure.
oftentimes that's where you find the answers to the
Mhm.
questions that you've never had answers to. And that's what I've been doing for many, many years. And, research leads you down, and you got to explore every single rabbit hole and hope
Right,
you
because I
come out
imagine in
better.
some cases, in other words, it's not like a one size fit all kind of deal, especially if
No,
that person has some type of maybe infestation, obsession, oppression. It's like, what's the point of origin? And I imagine that maybe when you research it, sometimes the point of origin is something that unexpected, some place that person went to or what they did or.
it could be anything. It could be the energy of that individual that attracts the demonic
Sure.
entity. It could be something they did in the past. You have to remember that for an evil spirit of the air, which is another term that is often used for
Right.
demons, or evil spirit of the earth, they don't have any sense of time.
Right.
And where we think, okay, I just did something bad, like 2 hours ago. They remember that, but you forgot about it 4 years down the road, but they
Right,
didn't.
like, "Hey,
And
20 years ago, I
they'll
was
use
young and
that.
stupid and went or did or said
They don't
things that."
care.
And then you're like, "Well, that was 20 years ago. I
Exactly.
was just being young and stupid." Yeah, like you said, it's like, doesn't
Uh,
matter.
they don't care. And this is something that oftentimes a lot of people see. As of late, there's been a lot of interest in interviewing me,
Mhm.
because a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, what you're saying, that makes sense. Why has this been hidden from us? Um, the people always refer to the King James Version, the Bible,
Right.
as
Yes.
the all end all. No,
Mhm.
the King James Version was it's now the all end all, but
Right.
before the King James Version, there was the Ethiopian Bible, which had
Right.
all the books that the King James, Mr. King James, took out.
Mhm.
I ain't talking about LeBron James. I'm talking about
Right,
King
right.
James. Okay, took out many other books. The King James Version, if I'm not mistaken, has around 72 books. The Ethiopian one has over 100 and something books, which were
Right, that
removed,
which is what everybody's always said, that the later versions of the Bible have been altered significantly.
altered and removed. And there's a reason for it, because it was and this is not me start trying to start, some conspiracy theory here, but if you are fresh out starting a new religion, you're going to want to control the narrative, you're going to want to control people as much as you possibly can, so you guilt them into place. And that's predominantly what you get from the King James version. They guilt so many people so that they are constantly having to report
Right, because what people don't realize is that
case.
King James version was a Protestant version of the Bible.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And a lot of
The
people think that
Ethiopian
just
was the
because it's the
original
Bible is the
Hebraic.
Bible. Yeah, yeah.
The Ethiopian one was the original Hebraic version,
Mhm.
unaltered, It had
Okay.
many books in there that are no longer in the King James version, like the
Sure.
Enochian scripts, the
Mhm.
Enochian books. There's one, two, three. There's a book of giants. There's a book of watchers. There's the book of Judas, the book of Thomas. There's so many books, and
Ye
they've been left out. And when you
Right,
start
right,
reading into those books, you start discovering, wait a minute, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, Protestant, doesn't matter. They'll have you believe that the fallen angels are demons,
right.
but they're not.
What are
And
they?
if you were to read those, well, what they are in Enoch 1, it describes that God was noticed what had happened when the Watchers, which were a band of angels, they had a job to do, which was basically watch over humankind,
Right,
came down. There were 200 of them, and they took upon them wives, human wives, and they created what's called Nephilim.
right,
Well, the Nephilim, the reason there was even a flood was so that they could be destroyed. And
right.
once they were destroyed, before they were destroyed, God had cursed the Nephilim. He had stated that you will not see any peace, for I shall curse you. You shall become spirits of this earth, and you shall roam this earth for all eternity. Now, I want you to think about something. Angelic beings are celestial beings. They have no need for food, no need for water. They have no need to possess the body because they already have a body. But what would have a need to possess a body? Something that once did have a body,
Right.
Nephilims. So naturally, that is what has been in the Old Testament and the New Testament been referred to as evil spirits of the earth or the air, depending upon the version that you
Okay.
actually read upon. They are the
Okay.
ones that used to drink, eat, crave things, carnal
Right.
things.
Right,
So
like a
naturally,
human body, like a human body, yes.
correct.
Like a human
So they
does,
would
like, yeah.
possess. Naturally, they would possess. Angels don't have that. There's a verse that states, "For we do not wrestle against things of the flesh, but rather against powers, principalities, and evil spirits of the air." It's in the King James version, and then there's no more mention of it. It's out. But I want you to think about that. Powers and principalities are two types of angels.
Right.
Then you have evil spirits of the air. What are evil spirits of the air? Well, if you had the Enochian book one, two,
Right.
and three, you would
Mhm.
know what evil spirits of the air really originated from. Nephilim. So those things, you have the powers and principalities, which I believe are the ones, the archangels that did fall with Lucifer, the sheriff, the seraphims, cherubs, and whatnot, all these other angels that
Right, that
fell
have
with
their
Lucifer.
hierarchy in the angelic realm.
Those are the hierarchy, and those are the ones that control countries and
Mhm.
empires. But they
Right.
also control the lesser levels, which are evil spirits of the air, which are also referred to as demons. So
Okay.
oftentimes people are thinking, oh, we have to fight these evil, fallen angels. They're not fallen angels. These
There
are
was
evil
something
spirits
totally
of the air,
different.
correct? And I think that that's why, as of late, I've literally been dedicated. I've been writing, I've been reading, and actually formulating a different way to actually combat if I ever do have to come across something like this again.
Mhm.
And oftentimes I end up, you know, at the other end of it. But I always have to be aware of I need to be prepared. I can't just go in and say, you're this, that when they're not. They're laughing at me. If you
Right.
go in already knowing what they are, and you know how to, that's how you address it. Let me ask you this question. Okay,
Sure.
so your name is Marlene, but
Yes.
there's different versions of your name, right?
Yes.
There's Marlena,
Mhm.
there's other versions, but a lot of people don't seem to understand this. In Spanish, you're Hispanic as I am.
Yes.
My name is Richard, but in Spanish it's Ricardo.
Right.
right?
And you say my name in Spanish, Marlene, even though it's spelled the same, but the pronunciation is
Yeah,
different. Yep.
exactly. So let me ask you this, because I always poke fun, whenever anyone says, "Oh man, I feel like ordering Papa John's," and I always say, "Oh, you're gonna order Papa Juan?" They're like, "What? What are
Yeah,
you
it's like
talking about?"
it's one of those
Same thing. It's just from a, but Juan and John are both the same.
the
It's just
same
that they're
thing.
from
Yeah.
different countries.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
Juan is the Spanish version. John
Uh-huh.
is, the English version. So
Right.
what I find fascinating is that people still, to this day, because of the King James version, call Jesus, and that's not really his name. That's the English version.
Right.
His Hebraic name was Yeshua. In
Right.
that name, it had power. And I started discovering as I started using Yeshua in the name of Yeshua or asking in
Mhm.
the name of Yeshua, things started working.
Really? When you made that
Yes,
change in the wow,
just that
interesting. Very
slight
interesting.
little change. Because that
Okay.
that was his given name. He wasn't born Yeshua the Christ. Christ is also a title. It's
It's
not
a
his
title.
last name.
Yes. Yes. The
You have to
Christ.
remember there was Judas of Iscariot. There was Mary of Magdalene. They never
Mhm.
actually shared their last names. They shared where they came from.
Yeah, yeah, that
Christ
was
is a
very common.
title.
People that was like either where they came from, the town they came from, or what they did for a living. This is how people were identified. Yeah.
Correct. The
Yes.
carpenter. Joseph was a carpenter.
Right.
So we have to think of things in the sense of how things were back then, 2,000 years ago, and even before that. And we also have to remember this is the Jesus, aka Yeshua, or should we say Yeshua, aka Jesus, does not look like the American version of what we have today,
Oh,
which
of
is
course
blue
not.
eyes,
Yeah, I know. That's a very
little
yeah, I know.
tan and blondish brown hair. It's like,
I know.
no,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
no,
I
no.
know. I know. I
This
know.
guy was small, copper toned skin, very, nappy
Yeah, he looked
hair,
he looked
and
Middle Eastern, which is where he's from.
yes, that's exactly where he's from. So, oftentimes when people say, "Oh, I study the Bible," but do you study the history behind the Bible? Have you
Sure.
actually dove in to actually understand? And there are many, many books out there
Sure.
that people should really
Absolutely.
take the time to read and study. In fact, one of my, birthday wishes and also Christmas wish is to get the Ethiopian Bible because that's
Okay.
that's going to be, oh, I'm going to be stuck in my personal little library reading that for hours on end,
Now
and
it's like, where
I
is
may not
he?
come out.
He's
Just leave the plate at the door,
yeah,
and
it's like,
I'll
okay,
get to it.
put a sticky here with this note here, put a sticky in this page, put a sticky on that page,
Oh yeah, that
like
that book is
for
going to look like
reference.
a mess. There's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
marker all over the place. But
Yes,
yeah,
but you're absolutely right. A lot of the history, which then of course bleeds into the translations or interpretation. How's that?
mhm,
It loses the original significance. All
correct.
right. And people don't understand, especially in whether you want to call it magical, religious, spiritual. A name has a lot of power. Using the right name has significance. Okay. And as a matter of fact, and I don't know, but I believe this is also even why you see exorcism by Catholic priests or Catholic exorcists, where they demand the name of who, in other words, of the demon or whoever. Because, in other words, the name, knowing the name gives you power somehow over it. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but I do believe that using the right name, like what you just said right now, Jeshua versus
Mhm,
Jesus, does make a difference. All
it
right,
does.
which is that's one of the things that that people don't realize that what imagine and you tell me about this, Rich, especially I guess for everyday stuff it really doesn't matter, but when you're maybe doing some type of exorcism, even the wording is important. Like what you say or how you say it, I imagine it's gotta matter.
Well,
So anyway, Rich, you were telling me about this case. Go ahead.
This one case, and I'll never forget it. I remember the it was a mother and a daughter. The daughter was somewhere in her 23s. Mother was somewhere in her 40s. They called my team and I in.
Mhm.
And the first thing that happened, because they always target, you know, the people, and back when I had my team, I had a regular team that handled only paranormal stuff and a team that handled demonic things.
Right.
So I had a feeling, because of everything I had interviewed with this individual, that this sounded to be demonic in nature. So I
Okay.
wanted my team to be prepared. So it attacked me. It attacked
Okay.
me first. So the very weekend, or the night before, I was supposed to head out with two other of my team members. I end up with a huge pain in my back, on the small of my back. And the pain was so bad. And mind you, this is the first time I've had this pain. I was like, God, don't let it be this. I go to the hospital. Sir, you have a kidney stone.
I was about to say kidney
Okay.
stone. Yeah.
All right. So what now? Well, we got to fill you up with a lot of, liquids and hope you pass it. I'm like, all right, thanks a lot. So I called my other teammates and my case manager, and I said, look, postpone it for next weekend. I should be okay by then. We postponed it again. Thursday. We're supposed to go on Friday. Thursday rolls around. This time I have a pain in my stomach, and I'm like, what the hell is this? So I
Right.
go. It was strong enough that I was like, okay, this is not good. I go to the ER again Thursday, and they're like, oh, you again? And mind you, I'm like, yeah, it's me again. So they did a scan of me, and they're like, sir, you have diverticulitis. I'm like, I have what?
Oh
What
my
the
god.
hell is
Yes.
diverticulitis? And they explained to me that's blockage of your intestines. So I'm here thinking to myself, okay, so give me something for it. And they're like, no, you have to stay overnight. Hey, cancel again,
Postpone it
postpone it
again.
till next week. This time, Thursday, again. And this time it's pain in the front, pain in the back. And I'm like, no, this ain't right.
Right.
So I go. This time it's both kidney stone and diverticulitis at the same time.
Two for the price of one.
That's how bad. Two for the price of one. This is 3 times I've landed in the hospital. The hospital's tired of seeing my ugly mug.
Right.
So
It's like,
they're like, yo, can you go to another hospital now? Because really,
yeah.
every time you walk in here, you scare people.
eh,
And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what else to do. So this time I'm stuck there for the whole weekend. It used to be just one night. This time it's the whole weekend. They
Mhm.
had to address everything with antibiotics,
Sure.
with IV fluids, everything. I was there until Sunday night. Long story short, I finally, the fourth week, nothing. Knock on wood, nothing. Okay, we're going. As I pick up my psychic medium, EVP specialist, I notice that she looks like a hamster. I'm like,
Oh.
what happened to your face? And she's like, I have an abscess tooth. I'm like, you've got to be joking. Yeah,
I'm
I'll be
telling you.
fine. I took some Advil. I'll be fine. I'm like, no. You're not going. No, I'm going. We've
No.
missed 3 weeks. We got to go. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we drive. It's a 2.5 hour drive from Hollywood.
Right.
Mind you, I live in Miami. From
Okay.
Hollywood, 2.5 hours more. We get there. Okay.
Okay.
We finally get there. The mother meets us at the door. I don't know why she's showing us this townhouse as if it's like Mar-a-Lago. It's a townhouse. I've seen a million townhouses here and there, left and right. What's the big
Right.
deal? So here she is, and she's like, this is the sliding glass door, and this is my bedroom, and this is my daughter's bedroom. I'm like, by the way, where's your daughter? And she's like, oh, she went to a club to party. I'm like, excuse me? Wait a minute.
You're thinking, wait a minute. You don't know it's. Yeah.
We're here for her. We're
Right.
not here for
Exactly.
you. We're here for her, to help her. She's off
Yeah.
partying at a club. You've got to be
Right.
joking. And
Yes.
she's like, oh, but she might be back, like, I don't know, maybe midnight. You should still be here. I'm like, ma'am, you don't understand. Do you realize the trouble we've gone through just to get here?
Right. Yeah,
Okay,
it's like
4 weeks now. This is the fourth.
and I bet you that when they contacted you, it
We
was really
finally get
urgent,
here.
right?
Yeah, yeah. It was like, oh, we need you here now. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
right, yeah,
I
and then
can't.
you
I'm in the hospital. And I finally get here, and you're telling me your daughter's off partying.
but
While
I need to go
all this is
clubbing.
happening,
Right.
she needs to go clubbing. And she's claiming she's got to do. Now, mind you, I do believe she did.
Oh, yeah,
Because
sure.
as she's showing us the house and everything, and mind you, like this guy right here, Superman, right here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. His weakness is kryptonite. I ain't no
Right.
Superman, but I got a kryptonite, okay? And that kryptonite's called frogs.
Oh.
So this woman, she decides she's going to open the sliding glass door and show us the vast, small yard that if you spit, you hit the neighbor's yard. She's like,
Right.
this is the backyard. And then all of a sudden, a big toad, and there's boo-foo frogs all over the
Yes,
place in South
yes,
Florida,
yes, yes.
jumps in, and I'm like, oh hell no. So
That's
I
it.
jumped on I jumped on the what was it? The island, the breakfast
Uh-huh.
island. And the rest of my team, they were all like, they were women. And they're all like, get past us. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is demonic. Screw this.
That's
Screw
it. It's a
this.
possessed bullfrog.
This is BS. And we finally get down to doing EVPs after they finally swept that frog out of there. I was like, I'm not getting down until that frog's gone. Screw
Yeah.
that. He's gonna pick me up and body slam me. So we get to do EVPs, and it's getting worse and worse. You could literally see her cheek getting bigger and
Yeah, of
bigger
course.
and bigger. And by this time, her teeth were all
Yeah, of
twisted and
course.
all over
It's
the
very
place.
serious.
This is something a lot of people don't seem to understand. When you're up against demonic, evil spirits of the air, these things are malicious. They don't care what you do. But if they know you're there to bring down the power of God, because you're the vessel, you don't have a
Right.
power. You're the
Exactly.
vessel. God has the power. But you're there as a vessel to bring down the wrath of God, to remove them. I got news for you. They're going to do everything they possibly can before you get there, while you're there, and when
Yeah,
you get
they're gonna
home.
try to. Let me ask you, did
Guaranteed.
Club Girl ever get home while you guys were still there, or what happened to
I
her?
don't care, because after that situation, after what I went through, Marlene, with all due respect, would you go
Uh-huh.
back?
No.
You've been to the hospital by this time 3 times. You finally
No, I
get
wouldn't. I'd be
yourself
like, "Why am
over
I
there.
taking this seriously?" Especially after everything, if this person is like, "Nah."
Sorry.
Like, in other
No,
words, you're gonna,
this is
yeah,
our time. We don't charge for our time.
right,
We're
yeah,
here to help you. And you
yeah,
go clubbing? Oh,
yeah.
could you hang out until 12? No,
No,
no. And mind
no,
you, I'm
never
looking
would.
at my teammate, and her cheek looks like she's hiding, acorns
Yeah,
for winter. No, I'm
yes,
not going to do that to her. That's not fair to her.
of course
So
not.
we
Yeah,
got in the car and we said, peace out. Never spoke to her again, ever again. And
okay,
it's not me being cruel. It's common courtesy
of course, yeah.
as
Even
far as I'm concerned.
regardless of whatever, even if you would have gotten there and you would have said, "No, lady, you're imagining stuff." Still, you would have said that out of, like you said, common courtesy. If you go through this and you're asking somebody to come to your house to help you out, you're there. You're there.
You're there. It's your time. It's your gas. No
Mhm.
one's going to pay you or anything. And at least have do you realize I spent, let's see, 5 days in the hospital to get there.
Right.
Okay. Because each time I'd go to the hospital, I had to spend the night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They want to
one
observe
night,
you.
kidney stone. The other night, the other night, the diverticulitis. The second time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Count them all together, you got 5. And I finally get over there, and I got one teammate, with
Right.
an abscessed tooth, and
Yeah.
I'm told, oh, the daughter's not going to be here until maybe after midnight.
I
I'm
would
like,
be,
no,
for lack of a better word, I'd be furious. I
I'm
don't care.
human.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
human.
I'd be like,
Okay, there's
no,
only so much I can do, and
this is unacceptable.
Marlene, I constantly answer emails
Yes.
from people that live in New York, people that live in England, people that live in France with very broken English, but they at least attempt to communicate with me just so
Right.
I can listen. I'm talking 1, 2, 3 hours on the phone talking to these people so I can consult with them and help them out. They're not paying me for my time. I'm taking time out of my life
Sure. Of
that
course.
I could spend in the vast backyard that I have now. Thank you, Lord,
Right.
for everything. But you know what? No, I do this because it's my calling. I've had so many people approach me over the years and they've said, Rich, what do I do to become a demonologist? And I look at them and I'm like, why would you want to do that?
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say, he's like, "You sure about this?" It's like,
It's
yeah,
like, why would you want to volunteer for something like this? And
yeah,
I always tell them what my pastor told me just before I turned 18. I think I shared the story with you the last time I
yes,
was on your show. He said, Rich, I've observed you since you were 11 years old, and you've always had this inkling, this fascination with angelic and demonic. And I'm going to challenge you. I know you're just 1 month away from becoming an 18-year-old, a legal adult. I want to see if you can pray and meditate about this. See about becoming a demonologist. See if this is your calling. I was like, demonologist. Now, I'm being honest. I'd never heard the term demonologist.
right.
I said, what the hell's a demonologist? And he told me what a demonologist was. And I said, you know what? I can do this. I think I can do this. And I prayed about it. I took that month.
Mm-hmm.
I meditated. I prayed about it. I read up on the subject matter. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I really feel like this is my calling. And he started training me from that point on. Unfortunately, it only lasted 2.5 years. He passed away. He was an older man. But, life takes over. You get
Sure.
married, you have kids,
Yeah.
and I still continued in my paranormal studies. I still continued to study the work that he had given me before he passed away. But I knew I had to get together with another church. And they continued my training because they actually knew my
Sure.
pastor. And
Right. Okay.
they started training me from pastor, co-pastor, to the elders, and there were 3 demonologists, including me, 3,
Right.
and we were sent out throughout the whole state of Florida to
Okay.
study or to actually, conduct these
Right.
testings.
Yeah, on the job training kind of deal. Like, okay.
Correct. With elders or co-pastor or the pastors until I
Mm-hmm.
was able to go out and do it on my own. And I did that for 17 years for this church. So
Okay.
this is something that I've learned over the years. This is a hazardous
Yes.
job. And I always look at them straight in the eyes and I'm going, why?
Yeah.
Why? Why would you volunteer to do this? It's beyond me. I don't understand it. I never will. I've never understood why anyone would say, "Oh, I want to be a demonologist." Oyeme, this is not supernatural, man. You
You
don't
know,
put
you
rock
took the
salt.
words right out of my mouth. It's like,
This
you want to ask them, did you watch the Winchester,
I
boys and the
love the
Supernatural?
Winchesters.
Oh no, I know, but I'm saying that they kind of like have this mentality that
Yeah,
that
that
like
it's going to be the same thing.
that I'm gonna get this nice old new great looking car and I'm gonna travel around the United
I
States.
wish.
Yeah,
I wish.
that yeah, and it's like, and even the demons are hot looking women.
I wish.
Because that's the premise of that show. I haven't seen Supernatural in a while, but yeah, that was the, you know,
Give me
whatever,
that
whether it was
car
an
any
angel
day.
or a demon, they're all hot looking women. It's like, okay, guys, all right, okay.
Mhm.
But let me ask you something. What do you think of, because sometimes when, you think of possession or people that are obsessed or oppressed or infestation or anything like that, what do you think? But sometimes I think that a lot of these, let's call them demons, their power is limited and they need a human agent to do bad things here in order to cause bad things to happen, to hurt people, to spread the misery.
Mhm.
What can you tell me of people, for lack of a better word, that are what they call perfectly possessed? Um,
Oof.
whether you want to call, some people say, no, that's a psychopath. And it's like, yeah, and
No, no.
sociopaths, I know. But there's people that I want to say, for lack of a better word, whether maybe it was a perfect possession, they were on board with it, or little by little, they dabbled in something they shouldn't, and they just became the instrument of something dark. How's that?
The best example I can give you, perfect possession, I would imagine you already know, but for your listeners, a perfect possession is a person that is actually a willing participant in having themselves completely possessed by a foreign entity as a demonic spirit. In other words, they're saying, come into me, please. You
Right.
can use my vessel. But there are also cases that I've had. In fact, one case that I worked for John Zaffis back
Mhm.
in 2008.
Right.
And this case, it baffled me. Now, mind you, John lives in I want to say one of the New England, I want to say New Hampshire,
Yeah, I know
Connecticut.
he's up
He
there.
lives
I
in
know
he lives in
Connecticut. I
Connecticut.
wanna say it's Connecticut. Yeah.
And he told me, Richie, I got a case for you, and I really think this lady, I think she's oppressed, and I hear you got a good reputation. You're a demonologist. I need you to go over there and go with your team and investigate on my behalf. And I'm like, sure, no problem, no worries. We get over there, Marlene. I'll put it up this way. This was in just around your area where you live,
Mhm.
where you told me. I'm not going to say where.
Right.
And we got there. It was 4 of us. It was
Okay.
my case manager, my tech, and psychic medium, and myself.
Okay.
And my case manager and I walk out. We meet and greet the lady that John
Mhm.
had referred us to, and we didn't notice it right off the bat. So she's like, hey, let me give you guys a tour. And I said, no, I'd like to keep the psychic medium out of this, just tell the case manager and myself, because I want him to get his impressions on his own. And as we start walking in,
Mhm.
the lady's talking. And I think I may have covered this with you. I may not. I'm not quite
Don't worry
sure.
about it. Either way.
And as she's talking, you hear a chorus of other voices
Oh, crap.
behind her voice.
And you must have been looking around like, "Man, she's got
And
stereo
I'm like,
going or what?"
what? Say what? Is there like surround
Right,
sound
right, like
stereo?
surround sound, don't you?
What's going on here? I don't I okay. And my case manager, she was like,
I bet she must have been wigged
this
down.
was her first case,
Oh my
and it
god.
had to be a demonic case. And I was
You
like,
know what? I always talk about the luck of the beginner, the beginner's luck. Yes, keep going. There's always
she
those
never
people.
went back.
And there
Never.
you go, another one.
She
Yes, I
quit 3 weeks afterwards. She
yes,
quit. She
yeah,
never came back. She was
you
like,
know.
peace out, sayonara. Never want to see you guys again.
And now
It
because
was
now you
nice.
made me a believer of what I didn't think was real.
So as she's speaking, and you got surround sound of 5 other voices saying the same thing she's physically saying, but they're saying the rah, 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 but in a growly type voice, and you're like,
Okay.
uh, uh what?
Ventriloquist?
No, it's impossible. It was different octaves,
Oh.
all talking at the same thing she was saying, but at the same
Let me
time
ask you
on top
something.
of
When
each
you
other.
went into the case, had she identified herself as the one being victimized by the demons, or
Yes,
was she okay, she already knew,
yes,
like, okay,
yes. But here's the thing. This is what opened the door.
okay,
When her and her husband first bought the property, she was
okay,
bored. She was a stay-at-home mom. She had a
okay,
little kid. I'd say he was somewhere around 4 years old at the time. And
okay.
she got bored. He'd take his nap. She'd go outside and she's like, what to do? What to do? Well, she starts digging. She starts finding little arrowheads. She starts
Okay.
finding bones. She starts finding, different, archaeological finds
Right.
here, and she had
Yeah.
to contact, the local college that had
Right.
an archaeological class. So they
Mhm.
came out, they turned her whole front side backyard
Yep.
into an archaeological
I
dig.
bet.
Come to find out, it was the site of one of the biggest massacres.
Oh.
I'm talking 98 Native Americans killed, dead, if I'm allowed to say that. If not, you
Yes.
can edit it and say
No,
that were
no.
what is it? Unalived.
Yeah, unalived.
Okay, unalived, 98 unalived, living around and underneath her house.
So in other words, they realized this is not a burial place. This was a place of a massacre?
This
Or
was a
was it
place of a
because they
massacre.
had, and the reason why
The
I say that.
activity that had started is why when she started digging, the activity started. Her mistake
Oh,
Her mistake was, I'm going to conduct my own investigation. Oh, nay, you don't do that, honey. So she
right, in
starts
other words.
doing EVPs. And
Oh,
she actually collected 586 EVPs
oh,
with
no, no, no,
direct
no, no.
answers to her questions. I mean, we're sitting there. There was one in particular that
Oh,
my tech actually reversed.
right.
I'm not kidding. She reversed it, okay? And it said, at first it said, we are many. And then when she reversed it, many died here.
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, yo, what the? And I called John up. Mind you, we're back at the
Uh-huh.
hotel. We were there for 3 days, 2 nights. I called John up and I'm like, John, with all due respect, you do know that she has over 500 and change EVPs that she's conducted here. And with all due respect, you do realize this is not a case of oppression. This is possession. He was like,
Right.
oh, Richie, you need to get the hell out of there. I'm like, okay, all right, wait,
It's funny.
let's at least do something. So we call in clergy
Okay.
and we have them do a blessing over the house and over her.
Okay.
Long
So let
story
me ask you
short,
something. By then, had the anthropologist, they'd left,
oh yeah,
right?
they had already left. They had already put all the dirt back. They took
Okay.
all the bones, all the
Whatever they were gonna
arrowheads,
take, they
everything.
took them. Okay.
They took it.
Mhm.
And long story short, by that time, everything had been stirred. So it
Oh, no,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
absolutely.
We were there. We were the cleanup crew, should I say. We were like Bill Murray and Ghostbusters that just
Yeah.
ended up going, it slimed me. Because
Right.
we got hit hard.
Yeah,
We
you came in
had
on the tail end of this whole thing.
this hurricane. It was
Mhm.
bad. It was super bad. Here's the problem. When we mind you, I had to go back a second time because she said it's back. The psychic medium I worked with at that time, he worked with different practices. He found a way to bind this demon, which I
Okay.
didn't necessarily agree with, but he bound it to a doll and he threw it to a lake that was right across the street from where she lived.
No.
Okay. And he throws it. We take all the EVPs and we're like, leave it alone. You've been prayed over by clergy. Don't worry about it. 2 months pass. I got a phone call. Rich, I want to hear the EVPs you captured. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You're done with this. We took all your EVPs. Don't worry about the EVPs we captured. Mind you, there were amazing EVPs, class A
Right.
EVPs.
Right.
Don't worry about that. Move on. This
Right.
is okay. How many stages, right? There's 4.
Yes.
Infestation, obsession, possession, obsession.
Right.
Now, I say obsession at the end. There's a reason why.
Mhm.
When the possession that just happened, and then there's an exorcism to remove that,
Right.
there's a void left,
A vacuum.
a vacuum. That's when the obsession starts. In the Bible, it states that when one is cast out, it goes on to dry places seeking refuge. It finds none. It comes back to its previous hosts and it notices that it's
Yes.
been swept clean. So then it heads out again, finds 7 more wicked than it, and it comes back to take over. Well, guess what? A few months later, This lady calls me back. Not only is she obsessed over the EVPs we captured, she wants all
Right.
the EVPs she took for 3.5 years back.
3.5 years?
3.5 years.
Oh my God.
She wants them all back. Mind you, by this time I had already
Let me
destroyed
ask you
them.
something. What did she? What happened with her? I mean, especially now
Oh,
you're
I ain't
talking.
done yet.
Did
I ain't
she
done
go?
yet.
All right,
I
keep
ain't
going.
done
Keep
yet.
going.
You're going to
Keep going.
love this. In that time period, I didn't know she had done this. She went behind our backs after we told her, leave this alone.
Oh.
And when we got there the second time, because the reason she was complaining was like Rich, I don't know why, but I got footprints, wet footprints in my house. Remember what my psychic medium did?
And let me ask you, she had no idea that that's how they had disposed of it, right? No. Okay, that's what I thought.
She was in the back. I was talking to her, keeping her occupied while he was doing this, and the clergy was inside doing his thing. She had no idea. She's like, why do I have wet footprints all over my house? What's going on? She took pictures and sent it to us. They were barefoot. You could literally see, but they were long. They were like very
Okay.
long, very odd shaped, but you could tell
Okay.
they were wet, and they were
Right.
going up and down the stairs, through the hallways, everything. I said, we'll be right there because I felt somewhat responsible.
All right.
I get there, not with I get there with the psychic medium that we had taken before. I get there with two other members that had just joined the team.
Right.
And she was at that time just beginning with her abilities. And she's like, I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling I'm getting. It's got me unhinged. And the lady decides, and mind you, she still had those extra voices.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you, is she
Yeah,
still
no,
had the
it was
everybody going?
gone the first time. It was
Right.
gone.
Right.
But this time there was more than what I was hearing before.
Okay.
And she's like, I need to share with you guys this. And mind you, there's like a chorus of voices behind her.
That must be so creepy. All right, keep
I
going.
got a tattoo. I was like,
Let's
you
see.
got a
Oh,
tattoo? Well, what's this tattoo? She lifts the back of her shirt,
right.
a mural of this demon
Are you kidding me?
on her back. A mural. The whole back. I want you to think
Right.
this woman is, yeah, she's petite, but I want you to think the
That's
whole
not
back.
right. There's not like a little flower on the wrist.
No, 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 no. It's not. It was the whole back with
Okay.
this demon. And I'm like, oh my God. I called John Zaffis up. I told him
Okay.
what's going on. He's like, Richie, get the hell out of there now.
She's on her own.
Richie, you're putting your team and yourself in danger.
Yeah.
When we got back, one of the team members that went with me, he was working security at the Clevelander. I don't know if you remember the
Yes, I know what
Clevelander.
the Clevelander is. Yes,
Okay.
of course.
And at this time, they were building something to it.
Yes.
So he was security inside.
Okay.
They had a 12-foot fence. This happened
Oh.
literally about a week after we got back. He said he saw something that was in the area where the construction was, but
Uh-huh.
it was hunched down. He's like, who's there? And when he got closer and closer, it stood up. Now, mind you, he's, this big. What stood up from here all the way up here, and it opened its eyes and they were blue, like glowing
Holy.
blue in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's luminescent.
And he was like, stop right there. And as he said that, it turned and ran. And as it ran, he ran. It jumped. Now, Marlene, it didn't just, grab onto the fence and
Right.
climb up. No, it jumped over a 12-foot fence
Wow.
without touching it. He's
I
doing
would
his
have
best.
been like, run, and I'd be like headed in the other direction. He's a
Mind you,
brave
he's
guy.
20. He's in his
He's
20s.
a brave guy, let me tell you.
I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, good God.
Yeah.
What happened? And mind you, I already knew what had happened. By the time he got over the fence, it was gone. He jumped over,
Okay.
landed broke his ankle.
Okay.
Ahí quedó. He that's where
Yeah, of course.
he stopped.
That's
This other psychic medium that was just becoming a psychic medium, she ended
right.
up with, guess what? Kidney stones. Different case, but same situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Kidney stones,
Yes.
hospitalized.
Exactly.
The other psychic that had been to the previous case and then the second time around,
Uh-huh.
his car stalled on the middle of the train tracks while the
The arms are
guardrails came
coming
down
down.
and there's a train coming, and his car wouldn't start.
Oh my God.
So I'm telling you, next time someone comes up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a demonologist. How do you become a demonologist?" I'm
Like,
like,
all right. You do.
"How do you
Yeah.
become one of these heroes?"
Let me ask you, how long, what length of time was it between the first time that you guys went there and when she called you back?
I want to say about 2 months, give or take. She had
It was
already
only
been
2 months.
harassing. She had been harassing for about, I'd say, a week after we left. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
hear from her. And then it was like every week after that. And
Let me
then
ask you,
finally,
did you ever get to interview her husband? Did he ever say what he observed? Did he ever tell you guys
the
anything?
husband was actually in full support of what we were doing there. And he agreed that she needed to leave this investigating of the house
Right.
alone.
Okay.
And in the end, he caved in, and so did the father and the mother, who were on our side. All of a sudden, were on her side because they were being influenced by what was within her.
So let me ask you, when you guys went there on your first investigation, did her husband say, did she have any personality changes? I mean, besides the obsession with the, I'm going to dig through, you know,
She became very, very obsessed with the
yes,
EVPs, of
with the
course, which
EVPs.
we
Yes.
understand.
Yes. That's
But
part
this
of
is
the, yeah.
how this came in. This is how this
Right,
all
because
got
see, one
started.
thing is, and I think that sometimes people fail to recognize this. One thing is that you're curious. Hey, man, I dug something up in my yard. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Hey, that
right.
happens. That's human nature. Okay,
This
but
is the
like
perfect storm.
right. But when this is all you think about, especially if you're
Yes,
a young mother, you'd be
yes.
like, yeah, I'd like to go out there and whatever, but I got a million things I got to I got to take care of. I've got a kid. I've got a house. In other words, when all of a sudden everything falls away, that obsessive, like you said, that obsessive mental processes are
Compulsive.
that compulsivity, that right there tells you, okay, yeah, there's something going on here.
Something ain't right,
Um,
and something's rotten in Denmark.
of
Yeah.
course, of course. That's not just like idle curiosity
And
that
when you
could happen
tell
to anybody.
her, even John Zaffis, and I love the man. To me, he's a mentor. I have a
Hmm.
great deal of respect for John.
Right.
When John himself, who's a demonologist himself,
Told you to get the heck out of Dodge. It's be like,
told you, tells you, Richie, get the hell out of there now.
yeah,
Just like that. I will never forget it. And afterwards I said, why? What's going on? And he's like, Richie, she's already made a pact.
wow.
The
There
the
you go.
pact between her and that demon. It came back, and it came back with more. It's
Wow.
hers now. This is a perfect possession. You could see it. You were asking me, did the husband notice a personality or anything? It's not so
Right.
much the personality. This is a woman. I saw pictures of her just taken a year before,
Right.
healthy looking.
Right.
She was like a beanpole by the
Okay.
time we got to her. Her eyes were sunk in, but they were still wide eyed. She looked
Right.
like a skeleton
How
just
old was she, more or
wrapped.
less?
She was 35,
Oh, that's
but
too
she
late for the
looked
young.
like she was in her 50s. Like, well, no offense to anyone in the 50s. I'm in my 50s here,
No, 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 no,
but
no.
she
The
looked like
reason,
bad, I should say bad 60s,
no,
really sick, dying of a really bad disease.
no, because sometimes you'll have the onset, even though she doesn't sound like schizophrenic, but you have an onset of schizophrenia sometimes in adolescence, but sometimes in the early 20s, people will develop schizophrenia. That's why I asked you how old was she, because I'm thinking, was this lady? But no, if she's in her
She was
30s,
30.
it's like she was in her 30s. So
But
let me tell you,
we had already done, actually, at this
oh,
time,
you
my
guys,
team didn't have to. They had already done a mental health evaluation on the side of John, and
Mm-hmm.
they had found her to be mentally sane.
Right. Like this is not a case that, hey, she needs to be going to see a
No,
psychiatrist
I
kind of deal.
wish it was mental illness. Honest to God, I've always told people, look, we need to have a mental health evaluation done. People that come to you claiming that they're demonically possessed, and I always tell them, we need a mental health evaluation done. We need, no
Sure.
offense to you, but we need to know
Right.
exactly what's going
Yeah.
on
Some
here.
people are undiagnosed. Some people are
And
just
I tell them,
undiagnosed.
you better hope and pray this is mental illness, because guess what? Mental illness, take a pill, get some therapies,
Yeah.
you're good.
Whatever. Yeah.
You get to live. You get to live your life. When you're possessed,
Yep.
that doesn't just go away.
Right. It's not like a question of like following a regiment and like you said,
No,
and
it's not a
being
diet.
let me tell you some things like that. But I think also that thing that you said. Let me ask you, what did her tattoo look like? Do you remember? Because that's
It
significant.
She was in the beginning stages. It hadn't been filled out
Oh,
yet.
she hadn't filled it in. Okay.
The
Okay.
outline was there, but she had already told me, "Oh, it's going to be the skin was going to be like a bluish black.
Okay.
The horns are going to be an ash gray. The teeth." And she started describing, I'm like, "You need to stop." I
And let me ask
wish,
you,
I
she
mean,
didn't see any problem with that, right?
no,
Obviously.
no, not at all. Not at all. And it to this day, it just goes to show you that when you're around something like this, how it influences the people around you.
Sure.
It's like an infection. You catch a cold, and then next thing you know, your husband, your wife has it, then your kids get it, and it,
Right.
it goes throughout the house. Everyone's sick in the house. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's the same thing. Their personality starts changing. Things they would never have said or done, all of a sudden they find
Yes.
themselves doing and saying,
Yeah.
because this is an illness.
That's
It's
the way
like
it
an
works.
illness. It
Yes.
spreads that way.
Yes. And that's the thing. And I'm surprised her family wouldn't have just physically looked at her and said, "Holy crap, there's something wrong here." I mean,
They
we're not going to.
did at first.
Right. That's
We
what I'm
got
saying. That
rid
at
of it.
first, but then
The
they kind of
second
like,
time, she's divorced since.
okay.
Her father has passed away. Her mom, I don't know about. I haven't really kept in touch with them, but the last time ironically, I had gone to a convention.
Okay.
I was the speaker at one of the conventions, and it was it was the Pensacola Paracon back in the day.
Okay. Yeah. The
She was
Pensacola. Well, I
there
don't know if
with
it's
her
Pensacon, but yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
she was there with her dad, trying to sell
Okay.
her book about her experience.
Ah,
And she had written about my team and I. Now, mind you, she didn't mention any names, but she
right.
said the coward of a team that I called in, they ran. I'm like, honey,
Ran. That's not the word.
you said you wanted to play tennis, but you're waiting for us with a machine gun. That ain't tennis.
Let me ask you something. Do you think did she ever get liberated from this? No.
No. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but something drastic would have to happen. I hate to say it, but something
Right.
along the lines of someone close to her, someone
Mm-hmm.
that she really truly loves, dying. Sometimes it takes a parent, sometimes it takes the husband, sometimes it takes,
Yeah.
I hate to say it because I don't wish death on anyone, especially a child,
Right.
to snap them out of it. And sometimes not even that.
I was
I
gonna say
saw,
sometimes not even that.
I've seen documentaries. Um, and I love this documentary. If people have a chance to ever watch it, it's The Devil and Father Amorth.
Yes. Father
Great
Amorth.
documentary. Okay.
Yes.
And the man that directed it and narrated and interviewed Father Amorth before he passed away was the
Mm-hmm.
same director that directed The Exorcist. That
Right.
world famous movie that came out in the 70s
Yeah.
with the possessed girl. And they are interviewing, and you'll actually, if you get to find it, and I think you
Mm-hmm.
can find it on YouTube or Tubi or something like that,
Right.
you'll hear what I heard. Father Amorth, as he is actually performing an exorcism. And I was going to tell you this earlier, but then we got off track. I don't perform exorcisms, I perform deliverances. An
Right.
exorcism is something that is reserved for the Roman Catholic Church.
Right.
It teach their own, but if you go back in time and let's say you're there as Yeshua, Jesus, is
Mm-hmm.
casting out legion from
Right.
that man in the cemetery, did he
Right.
use the rite of exorcism?
No, not well. No, not as far as the Catholic. Right. No.
It didn't. The Catholics didn't even exist back then.
Right. No, I was gonna say back then it would have been a moot. It would have. There
In
was
fact,
no.
the Romans were the ones that crucified him. So, with all due respect, I'm going to say this. He even told his disciples later on, in my name, cast out demons.
Right.
In my name, his name, Yeshua. And they did. So, there was no rite of exorcism back then. Why does that work now more than just using his
But you
name?
know what, Richie? I've come across some, not all, but some Protestant denominations that when you go into that area, and I know what you're talking about, the difference between an exorcism and a deliverance, but some kind of like wig out, and they're the ones that. Do you know that? Remember the original exorcism, The Exorcist? Okay,
Yeah.
William Peter Blatty, who wrote the book that
Yes.
became the film. He
Yes.
based it in part on an article that came out in 1949, okay, about a young boy, because in reality, it wasn't a young girl, it was a young boy
Correct.
that eventually was exorcised by a group of Jesuits, all right, over several months, days. It wasn't like one thing. But anyway, which by the
In a
way,
hospital.
right, he in a hospital, and he died not too long ago, 2020, 2021, and he was a scientist
Really?
for NASA. Yes. But anyway,
Wow.
this is the thing. What people don't realize is his father was Catholic, but a non-practicing Catholic. His mother was German Lutheran, I want to say, right? And his grandmother. When all these things start going on, which by the way, his history is very interesting. This is adolescence. She goes to her local Lutheran minister, pastor, whoever, I don't know what their title is. He's the one that sends her to the Catholics. He's the one that's like, no, like in other words, oh no, 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 devil, no, no, because apparently this is, and that there was, it's true, there was this thing where the aunt, the sister of the mom, had been into spiritualism and had passed away, but that is neither here nor there. And I don't know exactly, but he was the one. And by the way, they always say um, all the initial interviews that took place were in the at the church, as far as the office church. In other words,
The
they never went
archives.
looking for her. She was the one that came to them. Eventually, they converted to Catholicism. My point being that there's a lot of ministers and even some priests along the way that when you bring up the exorcism slash demon slash supernatural, they're like, no, 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 no. You know, they don't.
Yeah.
They're like not having it. They don't want to. You come with them with marriage in crisis, sure. Oh, your kid's acting up. Okay. Hey, you're having whatever weird. You're unhappy. Okay, we'll talk about that. But you start talking about supernatural or stuff like that, and they're like, nope. And
They
a
don't
lot
want
of
to deal with it. And
they do not
that's
want
their
to deal with it.
responsibility is to
Of
actually
course,
address.
of course, they're
I
spiritual. That
I
yes,
if you need spiritual guidance,
yes,
the first thing they're going to, if let's say you are possessed and you go there, I'm like, Father, I've been dealing with this phenomenon, this phenomenon, this phenomenon. Oh, well, do I don't know how many Hail Marys and get together with our church counselor
right,
and maybe you'll get some help. No, you don't understand. I'm
right,
levitating off my bed.
yes.
I'm spitting pea soup out of my mouth.
Yeah, like this is not like a
Uh, I
and
need
they're like,
help.
right.
No, 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 no,
No,
no,
no,
no.
no. Exactly. No, no, no.
It's
It's
not.
not
I'm
that.
like, no, 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 no. Don't, no, 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 me. All right.
Yes.
And as I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
cross is right in front of them. The priest will be like, I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
No.
Anyways, what were we talking? No, you can't do
Yes.
that. But that's what the
Right.
church is doing
Yes.
nowadays.
Yes. They do very seldomly. And as far as again, like these things sometimes they'd rather. How's this? And don't get me wrong, because even the Catholic Church, they have sometimes a problem finding enough exorcists. When the few priests that do come out of the seminary, very few, they're like, yeah, they want to be a priest, but like if they tried to tap them for exorcism, they're like, no, no. So my thing is that a lot of times some denominations throw it in the lap of the Catholics because it's like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to have to confront, which tells you, okay, you're weak in your faith. Sorry, but you are. You're weak in your faith. But yes, I want to say whether it's Catholic or any of the other denominations, when you get into that area that you're so knowledgeable about, a lot of them is like, nope, I'm not going there.
And that in itself is the problem with religious organizations.
Yes,
See,
I agree.
the teachings of Yeshua,
Mm-hmm.
his ministry only lasted 3 years while he was alive. That was it. 3 years. I want you to think about that. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Those are the first 4 books in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew and John were the only ones that wrote their respective books. Mark and Luke were not written by Mark and Luke. Now, I find this fascinating because King James and the council that was created by actually Constantine, a few popes, and a few politicians that decided what was canonical and what was not.
Exactly, what to exclude and what to leave in.
Correct. They said the reason they left out certain books, like Judas, Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
Mary of Magdalene,
Right.
Enoch 1, 2, and 3. There's
Yes.
no known author. Hold on. There's no known author for Mark and Luke. Why'd you include those?
Good question, huh?
No author. You can look it up. I challenge anyone that's watching your show to look it up. Who's the author for Mark and Luke? You're not going to find it. But that's their argument. Since there is no known author, we've left out Enoch and all these other books. I'm like, well, then you might want to take Mark and Luke out. Just keep Luke in Star Wars and keep Mark in some other movie. I don't know what else to tell you. Here's my thing. When you have, like I stated earlier, when you have to create a script, mind you, a man-made script, Yeshua, Jesus himself said, you are the church. You.
Right.
You are the church. What happened? If you know your Bible, I'm gonna challenge you with this, Marlene.
Go ahead.
What happened when the Pharisees challenged Jesus, Yeshua?
Well, we're talking here when he was in the temple. Well, no, I'm thinking of when they were the money lenders, when he was in the temple that he chased them
That was
out.
one. And that wasn't even the
I know it was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and
it was a bunch of people that were selling
they
doves,
were
rams, and everything at the front of the temple, and he tore all those things down because that should not be done
in the temple.
outside of the
Exactly.
temple.
Right.
When the Pharisees came and challenged him, and he said, "What? Literally, you are nothing but whitewashed tombs with dead men's bones in them." I want you to think about this very clearly. Back then, the Pharisees, they wore very regal robes, a lot of jewelry, rings, and whatnot. People kissed their hands. They worshipped the ground they walked on. But he was basically telling them, you look all nice and royal and regal on the outside, but you have no relationship with the Father. You have dead men's
He's
bones in
stripping
you.
them of power, and it always comes down to the power.
Exactly. The power's not them. It's the God they should serve, and he was challenging them. So I was like, when I read that was so profound, because nowadays you see all these priests, you see all these bishops, these reverends, and they wear these, they wear the collar, they
Yes.
wear the all this fancy smancy stuff. God
Right.
doesn't care about that. Only
Of course
God
not.
cares about is your heart.
Exactly. That's
He
exactly what it's
cares.
about.
He calls us all. He knocks on our door. If you answer, he'll come in and sup with you. But if you don't, he'll go to the next door.
But
He
yeah,
never forces himself onto people.
of
He
course.
offers.
No,
He
and the
offers.
thing is this, that he knows what's truly in your heart. In other words, you don't have to put on like like you said, whether what I'm wearing or the car or anything, which is like the outward appearance, which maybe what's going on inside might have nothing to do with what the outside appearance is. There we go.
Johnny Cash, the
Yeah.
man in black. I like Johnny
Yeah.
Cash. Sorry. If that
Yeah,
makes
that's what I'm
that
saying.
means I'm you see, that's the one thing I'll never fall for. What has been created as religion, organized religion. Think
Yes.
about it. It's called organized religion for a reason.
Sure.
They
Sure.
guilt people into
Unfortunately,
believing
yes.
you are going to hell if you do this, if you do that, if you do this. I'm going to
Right.
read one verse, and that's that. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever believeth in him shall not perish. Believeth,
Right.
not go to confessional, not this, not that. Believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. I believe in him. I've accepted
Right.
him. That's all. It doesn't say you need to be a card carrying member of any church in order to get
You know
into the
what
pearly
I
gates.
see it as, Rich? I see it as is what do you do when you're alone and nobody's there to look over your shoulder and either reward or punish you? You know, in other words, you're not doing or not doing something because you're fearing punishment, or you're doing or not doing it because you're looking for like a pat on the back. What do you do when you're alone? Do you do the right thing? That's
You
really what
have to do
counts.
what, honestly, you have to do what you feel is right in your heart. Now, I'm not saying,
Exactly. But there's a lot of people though that it's almost like they do the right thing, for example, because they want to look good. You know what I'm saying? Because they think they're going to get brownie points. Or they don't do the wrong thing. It's like, oh man, this is the wrong time, even though they really want to do it. In other words, what's really in their heart is like, well, I can't let anybody
well,
see that
if we're
I want to do a
using
bad
the
thing.
Christian faith,
Right.
for we have to remember, by the grace of God, we're
Right.
saved, not by works, so that no man may boast. So you know what? I can
Oh
go to
yeah.
church every day. I can do confessional every day. I
Oh
can do I
sure.
don't know how many Hail
What do
Marys.
you
It's
what do
not
you
going to
what
get
do
me
you
any
re-
closer to heaven.
of course it's like what do you really do without like recognition or fear of punishment? What's really in your heart? Again,
Exactly.
and unfortunately, we see that a lot. I'm going to say with religious figures across the board, like you said, that when they fall hard because they've made themselves look like they're a person, that they are anything but.
They're not a
Okay.
person. It's like they make themselves look more than, like they're
Yes.
holier than thou.
Yes, of
And
course.
that in itself is the problem.
Well, you know what, Rich? This is the thing. If you're asking people to send you money, which is what it boils down to, you got to make it look like I'm deserving of it. I'm going to impart information or something so that you go along with that program. If you
Sure,
start saying I'm just the same as you kind of lose a mystique. And I hate to say it, part of it is there's people out there that they need that mystique in order to believe in a
sure.
person.
That's fine. That's fine. Whatever makes them feel
But there's
secure.
a lot of people about there that do that. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to say this is part of this has to do with the paranormal in the sense of, I'm sure you've seen that they're saying, okay, there's a downturn in people, like you said, participating in organized religion or going to church. I
Right.
agree. Part of it, I want to say, is because people are
Cheap.
disappointed, or they see, like you say, what's the thing that that leaders have clay feet. I
Yes.
want to say the flip side of it, because there's spirituality and there's religion. I want to say that also that separation of humans from God, Jesus, spirituality, goodness is what does let evil in. Okay. And sometimes it comes in very subtly, but that when there's that absence of of God, of even if, and I hate to say it, even if it's structured religion of some type, okay, where you were reminded that the existence of God is there as part of your life,
Don't get
you
me
know.
wrong. There's a time and place for church.
Oh, of
There's
course.
a time and place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I hold dear, and this is just me, I am only speaking for myself, I can't speak for anybody else, is my personal relationship with God.
Sure.
I take time out, just like you take time out. You wake up in the morning, you do your business in the bathroom, you go and you have coffee, right?
Right.
I'm imagining that's what you do. That's what
No, no,
any
no, but you're
Latino
right.
is going
Everybody
to do.
has their routine, their thing that they
You
do.
got your routine, but you take the time to do it. You don't think of waking up, oh God, I gotta
Right.
find my slippers, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Right.
You're not thinking, how many steps does it take from my bed to the bathroom, from the
Right.
bathroom out the door, out down the hall to my kitchen, start the coffee, have my coffee. And no, you're
Yeah.
not thinking, you just do, right? You just
Exactly.
do.
Right.
You know you're going to have to wake up, do this. You don't think of all the steps you got to take in between. What's funny
Exactly.
is what stops us the most is the constant regurgitation of fear
Yes.
of, what if I slip and fall from the bathroom, or from my bed to the bathroom, from my bathroom to
Yes, you're right.
yo, fear is paralyzing. Now, the problem I see is there has to be a time and place and balance. When we take the time to actually spend time, quiet time with whatever God we choose to serve. I choose to
Right.
use to serve Yeshua the Christ,
Right.
which is my Lord and Savior. That's my time. I
Right.
don't have to go into a building.
Right.
I don't know. I don't need someone preaching to me their perception of Yeshua
Mm-hmm.
when he left the Holy Spirit to minister to me. And he said
Right.
it, before I leave to sit by the right hand side of my Father, don't worry, I'm leaving you the Holy Spirit to discern to you what my word will say in the
Right.
future for you. And this is what people don't understand. Now, there's a time and place. Let's add that. People that are lost spiritually, that are actually
Mm-hmm.
seeking some refuge, something, anything.
Right.
Yes, seek out guidance through
Yes.
church.
Yes.
But remember, we're all human. We're all imperfect. And just because that person is up there and they're wearing their robe and they look so regal and
Right.
they do the sign of the cross, you know what? They're no better than you are.
Yeah.
They're servants of God. They're children of God. God loves that priest, that bishop, just as much as he loves you.
Right.
It's up to you to be close to God. You don't have to become a priest. You don't have to become
Of
bishop. You
course
don't
not.
have to become the Pope.
That doesn't mean that that person is any better, or closer, or holier than you.
Exactly. It
Yes,
depends
I agree.
on how much that person wants to get to know God.
Exactly.
It doesn't depend on that priest, on how close you get to God. It depends on you, the
Of
person,
course. Of course.
sincerely,
Well,
your
and when
heart.
it's the same thing. Let's say let's use the Catholic version that you're supposed to go to confession and then you get absolved of your sins. And this is all that, when you confess your sins and you're saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to do it. But what if in your heart you really don't mean it? You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, then what? Here, I mean, yeah, anybody sees you and says, that person went and did confession, they were absolved, they maybe took communion, blah. Like I said, this is the Catholic version. But if and by this, I'm not saying we're all imperfect. We life is messy. But if that person, even while they're confessing, they're not really they're not really contrite. Like it's like, yeah, all right, I'll pretty soon I'll be out there doing the same thing I just did, that I got absolved for, It's like, okay, he doesn't
And
really
it
matter.
happens. But that's the thing, Marlene. It happens regardless.
Yeah,
We are sinful, of sinful nature. We're born of
sure.
sin. But by the grace of God, we're saved. So how many times do I have to ask? It's funny. I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night. I said, you know what, this is something. It could be a skit, a comedic skit. Someone they run into a church, and they go into confession because they see this asteroid fast approaching, and they know they're going to
Right.
get destroyed into smithereens. And they're like,
Right.
Father, I gotta tell you all my sins, and I need you to forgive me of all my sins. And then he does. He's like, oh, thank God. And he steps out, and he starts running out the church, and he falls down the steps, and he goes,
Uh-huh.
okay, he just sinned again. What, he's going to run back? As he's running back,
Right.
asteroid
Exactly.
hits. What, he goes to hell?
That's it, man. At
Come
least
on,
purgatory.
people. This is
No, I
when do
think
we
it's like
stop with this?
no,
This is
it's
ridiculous. This is to you have to the way I see, and from what I have researched, the way that religion has been designed is to guilt people into submission.
yes. Guilt or
Uh,
fear.
Guilt and fear of going to hell, guilt
Yes.
them into going to confessional. You must go to confessional, or you will
Right.
go to hell. No, 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 no. Look,
Right. Exactly. And this
if
is,
I'm
as a
told
matter of
that, if I
fact,
believe,
but they've even done this is talking we're talking BC, birth of before the birth of Christ. They have found that in different ancient civilizations, that they would put whatever the religion was. Let's say it was if I remember it was I can't remember if it was Egyptian or some other a civilization that was around the time of the Egyptians. Bottom line, it was one of these animals like with a head with a temple. And they found that on purpose they would make the statue with the nostrils so that the priest could put so that smoke would look like it was coming out of the nostrils. And the crowds are like, oh, you know what I'm saying? In other words, even back then, as in BC, they still had almost like like a play, like, hey, we got to put on the play, the we got to make it look so that people will be like, oh my God, look, the smoke is pouring out of the God's nose. In other words, that everybody's gone by that playbook before. As far as impressing, if you don't impress the crowds, that's the way they think of it, then nah, they're not gonna go for it, kind of deal.
and that's organized. That's organized. It's
Yeah,
created. It's for effect. Smoke and mirrors, basically.
yeah,
And but that's a subject matter for another show, because I'll tell you this
yeah.
much: there's a lot of history that in BC that would basically make you go, say what? and
No, I
and
know.
you would even be going, Rich, you got to be joking. But I got news for you. There were a lot of gods out there that were being worshipped, and they did have power, and they weren't the God that I
Right.
serve. These were other gods.
We're like a demigod.
They had power, and they were not. They were what I refer to as Nephilim. They were
Okay.
giants. They were big. They were also very powerful. And people tend to misunderstand the representation of what Nephilim were. In fact, people say, "Oh, Nephilim were wiped out during the flood."
Mhm.
Okay, so then who the hell did King David, kill? A little shepherd boy, David. He killed Goliath.
Right.
Goliath was a Nephilim. That was way after the flood. Land of
Exactly.
Nod, land of Canaan, they still existed. In fact, the promised land, which was promised to Moses, okay, when 3 spies went to check out the promised land, they came
Mhm.
back saying, nope. Now, there's big grapes there, there's a lot of honey and milk and everything, but we
Right.
were like grasshoppers to the yokels there. I
Okay.
want you to think about that.
Well,
To meaning they still existed after the flood. How's that
so
possible?
let me ask you something. So are you on board then thinking that uh evidence of giants, let's go with the giant version, has been suppressed, whether they've done
Oh,
away with the
for
remains, if they've
sure.
been found,
For sure.
they've been,
Yeah.
you know.
It's amazing what the museum, which museum
Yes.
I'm
Yeah, I
referring to,
know. I know. It starts with an
love to
S
do. A
and ends
lot of
with an
them,
N.
yes. Yes. And they found many of those bones, for your information, in Ohio.
Yes.
A
Because
lot
there
of
were,
these
there was
mounds.
The mound builders out in Ohio. Yes, absolutely.
And
Which, by
those
the way,
bones are huge.
you know that they practice human sacrifice out there, those mound builders.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Which
let's
which
not forget the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, the Smoky Mountains. There's so many skeletal remains that have been found over so many years.
yes,
You can ask Native Americans
right.
about it, and they'll tell you.
Yes, I do agree with you that there's, if you, whether you want to call it suppressed history or just that there's a version of certain events that are like either we're not going to talk about that anymore, and we're not going to write
It's
about it, and
called
we're,
control
of course, of
and
course,
suppress. If people know, you see, people don't know because they don't dig as much as you and I
there,
do.
but hmm
We dig and we dig and we dig. There's a reason. Okay, if you come, let's say you're in the woods, and then all of a sudden it's just trees, 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 but then there's literally like a crater
okay,
where nothing grows, no trees, but there's a crater. How'd that
right,
crater get there? How? It had to have gotten there somehow. What,
of
did the
course,
trees grow around it, but there's no trees growing in it? We need
right,
to understand something big was there at one time.
sure,
Now, I'm not saying
exactly,
this is the case for every single crater you come across, but
right,
we need to question everything.
of
We
course,
need to be bold and brave enough to say, you know what? There used to be something big there, but I'm going to do this instead. How long do you do that for? Until you finally say, I can't do this anymore. Oh my God, no. You're kidding me. That's what this was this whole time. And that's what's
right.
happening now. We are living in an age, day and age, where nothing is hidden. There's
I
nothing.
know.
You could pick up your phone.
Yes.
Right there, you got your news. Right there, you got
Yeah.
everything, all the information. You
Yeah.
Google everything. You do
And
this, you
there's
do
what they
that.
call the citizen journalist, which is the guy with the phone going, "Hey, look, look." Yeah.
Exactly. No, you can't get away from it. I
Yeah.
want you to think of something. One of the prophecies that was spoken of was that the two prophets during the end times would be killed. There are only two that never saw death. Okay. Now, what they couldn't understand was the whole world would see them die.
Okay.
Back then, they were like, how can the whole world see two people die?
All right.
I'm going to ask you this question. How could
Yes.
the whole world see two people die now?
Oh, well, it's very easy. It's like and if you have a phone, if it's
There
being
you go. But
off,
back
absolutely.
then,
No, of
three,
course it was
four, 5,000
peop
years ago,
the comprehension was there. Like, how would that happen? How could that be? And now, yeah,
if
of
they
course, now it's very easy.
exactly, if they saw an
Things
airplane back then, oh, it's a big silver dragon flying across the sky. It's going to kill
right.
us.
Yes. Yes. Nobody the what it translates to from somebody that doesn't know what it is.
As primitive as they were.
Right. Of course. You just you make it sound like what you know, like what you said, a dragon or whatever. I mean, you use the vocabulary of what you're familiar with to describe it because you don't understand what it is. You don't really have a name for it.
Take your phone, go back 2,000 years ago where Jesus was, or Yeshua, and say, look at all the pictures I got on my phone. This is my daughter. This is my doggy. Look, he's smiling.
Look, and
They'd
this
be
is what I
like,
had for breakfast.
exactly. They'd consider you a heretic, a witch, a wizard. They'd burn you. They'd kill
Of
you.
course. Of course.
But it's technology.
Of
In their
course.
primitive minds, it's magic.
Right. Yes. Exactly. By the way, and I'm going to ask your opinion on this. Is something I've heard.
Mhm.
They're saying that this push with all the superheroes, which by the way, I know that superheroes have been around since the comic book, but now I'm sure you've seen like in the last few years that they've put out a gazillion million movies of all these, sometimes even obscure superheroes.
What, these
Right.
guys?
Yes. That is an attempt to bring back worship of demigods.
Correct. I
Okay.
agree.
I didn't know if you had heard about that. that you
No,
say,
that it's
okay.
not that I've heard of it. I know for fact because they still exist.
And the thing is this, that don't get me wrong. I like at some point I like superhero, but lately it's like I don't want to go see another superhero anymore. No more, no more, no more superheroes.
I never get
This-
tired of it, me personally, but that's just me.
I like them, but in other words, they overdo it, and I don't know if it's because they produce them so quickly. Because I don't know if you remember back in the '80s when the first Batman movie came out
Was it the
with Mike.
80s?
Yeah, it was the '80s when Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson played the part of the Joker. And this was like everybody was like, "Wow!"
Yeah,
Because
I think you're right.
before that, all they had was Adam West. you know,
No, actually, well, when it came to Batman, yeah, you're right. But no, they had
it
already
was
had
like the
Superman,
TV show. But
Christopher
this,
Reeves as Superman
well,
in
Christopher
the
Reeves is
80s.
Superman. But what I'm saying is, I remember when that movie came out, everybody was like, "Wow, it was
It
great,"
was. It was
and the
amazing.
Superman and all that. And in and of itself, that was fantastic. And then all of a sudden, it was like, I don't want any. I
It's
think
still
I
good
think
for its time, but
I know, but still, in other words, how's this? They've made now. I'm going to give you an example. Back. I have to laugh. Batman has become a sociopath. A very deranged sociopath who just happens to be on the good side of
the
compared to
sociopathic behaviors, yeah. I
that
mean,
he was
he's
so
he has trauma from
from
his parents being killed in front of
the right, exactly.
him.
So
I think
it's
people
like,
need to realize that, yeah, a lot of these stories, these backstories, have to do with an unfortunate death. Spider-Man loses his uncle,
yeah.
and because of that,
Well,
he
no, it's
turns
now
to
think about it.
fighting
How did he
crime.
end up with his aunt and his uncle to begin with? His
His
parents
parents
murdered
died
him.
in an airplane crash. The
Yes,
same thing with
exactly.
Superman. He was sent
Yes,
down to Earth from
yes,
Krypton, ends up
yeah,
with, two old people as his
right,
parents, new parents, not his real
right,
parents. His
right,
uncle, his father dies as well.
right.
Uh, Batman. I mean, it's always a tragic story behind
Very
why they
tragic. Very
became superheroes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Very, very tragic. Exactly. But yeah, I mean that's a whole, like you said, that's a whole nother show. But I want to ask you one last thing, Rich.
sure.
What you think? Um, this thing, especially now the Halloween just passed.
Hmm.
Do you think that occult practices are on the rise? And I'm not talking about people like dabbling. I'm not talking about people doing stupid stuff, which by the way is still dangerous. I'm talking about intentional black magic.
I wouldn't say it's on the rise, but I think it's around.
Okay.
Um, I think there's more awareness now because let's face it, we have Google, we have
Mhm.
so much access to information. You don't even have to go to the library anymore to get information. You just,
Right.
search it. Spirituality is in an uptick right now.
Right.
People are
Yes, that I
breaking
know.
away
Yes.
from the religious organizations because they're being let down. They're
Yes.
realizing that they're not being fulfilled, so they're trying to find other
Right.
venues to fill that void.
Exactly.
Um, Occult practices, I think, are about the same. I remember last week, just as the uh, clock started ticking for people that collect food stamps,
Yes.
and the Satanic Temple going public and saying, if you need food, I want you to think about this. If
I
you
didn't
need
hear that.
food, it's true. If you need food and they're going to cut your benefits, you're
Oh boy.
welcome to come to our temple twice a week and we will give you food. No questions asked,
Yeah.
and we will give you food.
Mhm.
I've yet to see
Wow.
a Catholic or Christian church or one of those mega churches that are out there offer that at all.
Around
So
here, there's been a lot of churches, and where I live at,
that's good then.
and there's smaller churches, and yeah, that they've put in like food banks, like, hey, come in, because around
And
here, as a
it
matter,
as well as should be, as
of
well
course,
as should be,
yeah,
because that's
that's the right thing
Yeshua.
to do.
You have to remember, Yeshua was not a rich man. He was a nomadic individual. He walked from one town to the other, and he literally took, he didn't go around saying, hey, meet me all here at the Temple Mount on Sunday 10 a.m. bring your money, you know, and I'll give you all healings and miracles and everything. He didn't do that. He just walked. He had 12 disciples with him that walked
Hmm.
with him everywhere he went, and people just followed. He'd stop to rest and he'd just talk. That was his ministry. He didn't stop at a temple or a big old
Right,
church.
right. It was like outside.
It was outside. It
Mm,
was town to town to town to town. And
right.
people nowadays think, oh, the only way that you can actually be, be considered a true Christian is if you, no, I got news for you. That's not how it works.
Of course not.
People need to go back to the basics. And honestly, if you really, really want to find God, search for God in your own way and find
Sure.
him. He's waiting.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. I agree. But like you said, I think there's a minor revolution going in as far as
Oh,
how
yeah.
people are finding spirituality and getting in touch with God and realizing like, hey, but you know what? I'm going to tell you something, Rich. Part of it is like everything. When you take the middleman out of the way, again, whether it's a minister or a priest or everything, that all of a sudden the responsibility is on you as to what kind of life or communication you have with God. You see what I'm saying? And some people don't want that, is my point. They'd
Yeah.
rather,
They
they
want to
want
be
to,
guided.
exactly, exactly. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of personalities that are like that.
The needy personalities that are so lost that they don't really know
Or they just
between the difference
they
of
don't
right
wanna
and
make
wrong.
major life decisions. They'd rather
Have
be
someone
in
else
that
do it for them.
has so and let me tell you something, you think, "Oh, who does that?" A lot of people.
A
A
lot of
lot of
people.
people fall into that category, and, yeah. So I know that spirituality, and that's why I even asked you that thing about, like, the occult practices, and the reason why I ask you this is, if you say, "You know what? Whatever," let's say you're one of these cuckoo birds who, like you said, goes to the temple of the whatever, say, satanic temple or whatever, and you're thinking, "Okay, what do these people do?" Whatever they do, even if what they're doing is holding a black mass. My problem with this is that the true adherence. I'm not talking about the person that's the dabbler or some idiot that wants to. That religion, that belief, whatever you want to call it, we don't want to call it. At some point, will demand that besides the demonic influence or obsession or whatever, will demand that you do something dark, as in taking human life. You know that, right?
It's possible, yes. I mean, from the
Yes,
very source it's coming from, you have to question
yes,
it.
yes. There,
But it's
there will always
sad.
come. There
That's
will
the
always
sad
come a
part.
time that the how they that how in certain things it's a test of faith.
Yeah,
The
it,
test
it's
of faith
it's like the
will.
little bait. Here, come here, come here, come here.
Right,
Oh, by the way, if you want this one this time,
right.
I need you to do this for
If
me.
you really are a follower, if you are going to, then you know that this is what's required of you to prove your faith,
Loyalty in
your
your faith.
loyalty, exactly. And that's why, I think a lot of people, um, they think, oh well, it's some people dancing around in cloaks or whatever. And I was like, yeah, in some cases I agree, but then there's others, the hardcore ones, by the way, that you might not even ever catch them with a cloak on. But because of their core beliefs, they end up doing very, very horrible things.
Marlene, all I gotta say is if you starve a person long enough, you'd
Mhm.
be amazed with what they'd be willing to do just to get that crumb off the table that you haven't offered them.
Oh, yeah, of course. And there's a
I
lot,
want
and I know a lot of it has to do with personal trauma. I know there's a history,
Oh
whatever,
no,
everybody's
I'm
different.
talking about, and I hate to go into it, but that's the politics of what's being played nowadays.
Yes.
You don't take away someone's food like that and then have a party, you know,
Oh,
a
that's not
million
good.
dollar plate party. You
No.
know, that's that's BS. And that's as
No.
political as I'll ever
Oh, no,
get when
no,
it
I know,
comes to that.
but do you know
But
what? But honestly, I think, and this is, by the way, this is non-political. I don't think people should go. I know it's not a perfect world. I know that. But let's say in the United States, I don't believe in people going hungry. How's that?
I agree. We this is the richest country in the world.
Yeah.
And
I
we
think
got
you should.
people on the streets going hungry? No.
I'm not talking about caviar and truffles. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, no, no.
I'm
A
talking about that.
sandwich, for God's sakes. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is
Or
the very month of Thanksgiving, and
yes,
they're being faced with possibly not being able to celebrate
right.
it. No,
And,
this ain't
no,
right.
no.
That's evil. That
That's
is
why I would.
evil.
That's why I would tell anybody is like, hey, one way or the other, drop off some food at a food bank. Drop it off so that way it gets apportioned correctly to whoever needs it for
I agree.
whatever. Whether if it's a family of 2 or it's a family of 4, it's a family of 6 or a person of 1, whatever, so that the portioning goes the way it should. But
I agree.
absolutely,
I agree.
absolutely. Anyway,
That is
yeah,
being Christ-like.
well, right, and but see, that's a personal decision also on each person on what they think is doing the right
Or
thing.
human decency.
Right.
Have empathy for people. I'm
Sure.
sorry, I can't walk past a person that just fell and go, "You all right, bro?" And keep walking.
Well, let me tell you something. Did you and I'm sure you saw it. Did you see what this must have already been 4, 5, or 6 months. I wanna say that sometimes that lady that was set on fire on
No. Oh my God,
that
no.
subway in New York,
No.
and people just watched her burn. And I think I don't know the exact I believe that they unfortunately in New York that they have a lot of these homeless people that kinda like live or sleep or exist on the subways. This
Yeah,
guy set her on fire, and everybody's going around looking at this lady immolate. And I'm like, "Hello? What is wrong with these people? What?" This is to me when I looked at you remember back in the 70s that there was some lady in New York, I want to say, that she was attacked and raped. And I don't remember if she was even killed like in an alleyway. And a bunch of people supposedly heard her screaming for like a while. I want to say, did she get killed? Um, and nobody, they even made a movie about it. They even, nobody went and helped um, this poor woman that supposedly was for a while trying to get away from somebody that was hurting her, killing her, raping her, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, that it's that which by the way, on an aside, if you want to see the hand of darkness, that right there is a very good
I
example. When
agree.
you have
I agree.
people going like you said, "Hey bro," no, it's like, "Oh, on fire anybody, yeah, like not my problem."
That's the truest form of evil, is
Yes.
not showing any empathy, compassion towards a person that
Yes,
is
exactly.
suffering in any way, shape, or form. I
Yes.
I I know people right now that are
Mhm.
suffering, and it hurts me to know that they are.
Yeah.
And if there's something I can do to help them, I will.
Yeah.
Like I told you just not long ago, I take time out of my life to talk to people, total strangers I've never spoken to, never met them, for
Right.
an hour, 2, 3 hours, and consult them, and not just stop there and continue talking to them for
Right.
weeks and months
Exactly.
on end until
Sure.
they get the help they need, if
Yeah.
it's from me or someone else.
Yeah.
But there aren't enough of me around. I'm
Okay.
not saying I'm this wonderful,
No, I
amazing
know.
guy.
I know.
No,
I know
no.
what you're
I
saying.
got my imperfections just like everybody else, but
Sure.
just taking that time.
Exactly.
Just I remember someone saying, "Have you ever realized that maybe just stopping for 1 minute and saying hello
Yeah.
to a person, a total stranger, I hope you have a great day,' is all they needed to hear,
Yeah.
and you just may have
Courtesy,
made their day."
common courtesy goes a long way.
Yeah,
And one would
it
think,
does.
well, and I hate to say it. When I say it because I'm old enough to say it, once upon a time that was the norm, but nowadays that common courtesy has gone by the wayside.
No one
Okay.
cares.
No one
And
cares.
I'm
It's
not
like,
saying no one cares, but very few people care now.
or at least have, that common courtesy or kindness or whatever. Yeah, that unfortunately that's not the norm anymore. And I feel like a progressive commercial. When the guys say
Yeah,
Let me ask you
yeah.
before we how has your experience been with the Eli Roth show? How was that for you?
That show, it was a great experience. I
Mhm.
liked it, but um, the end result I did not really care for, because you can't take something that happened collectively,
Right.
I'd say 4 days, and make it into a 14-minute story. And that's
Yes.
not
Very different.
including the commercials.
Yeah. That they edit it so much that it's like, really?
That's not, I mean, and I see this on TV all the time, and it
Yes.
really, there was so much more that happened um,
Yes.
before, during, and after, even
Yes.
months after.
Mm-hmm.
And they chose to leave it out. And I was so disappointed by it. It was an experience that I'll never forget when it came to the actual possession, but
Right.
also the show. I appreciated meeting Eli Roth. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. I got the man's autograph. It was great. But other than that, I mean, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would insist that they actually take the whole hour to
Right.
tell each one of our stories
Okay.
properly, instead of splitting an hour and giving 14 minutes to two
Which is
different
nothing.
people.
Which is
It's
nothing. That's
nothing.
nothing.
In the
That's
grand
nothing.
scheme of things, it's even an hour isn't enough. So
Yes.
the fact that they broke it down to 14 minutes, and that's not including commercials, I
Mm-hmm.
was very disappointed.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, some people know me because of the show, but honestly, I'm in this not for shows. I'm not in this for anything other than helping people and helping them
Sure.
find their, center again, finding their
Yes.
lives.
Yes. Exactly. That's the thing, and I think a lot of times, Rich, you said something really important, which is like, it's not just the before, the during, it's the after. Like, what happens after somebody's had an experience with whether demonic possession or oppression, anything, that even after, let's say, somebody goes there and blesses and delivers them, that there's something that they got to do with their lives to keep that whatever it is at bay. And a lot of people, I think don't realize that that's part of what comes with that experience.
Well,
That
I'll give you a little preview,
okay,
but my story didn't end there.
okay,
It did come back.
really?
Yeah. But we can leave that for another show at another time.
Oh, okay. I oh, you tease you. Okay, so I'm gonna have to
It
bring
did
him
it
back,
did
guys.
come back, and it came back. I'll give you this much,
Okay,
but it attacked me, and it
physically or mentally or
in went in,
really?
because it went into her first and then into me, and it was unexpected. Thank God I was praying first, but that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay,
I was, through the faith that I had with God, I was able to get out of that.
okay,
But that's for another show and another time.
okay. So that was yes. I would really. We got to talk about that so you can come back and say what happened after what they call the aftermath.
Yes,
You know.
because remember, when they're cast out, they go on to dry places. They come back, they notice their vessel has been swept clean. So
Okay,
they head
now
back
I want to
out.
ask you something real quick, which is, and I know what you're saying. As far as like when Jesus cast out the demons, that they went into the pigs and the pigs went over the cliff. And
Yes.
what happens? Let's say in the situation of a deliverance, where are you guys directing
Same
these
thing.
demons into
Same
where?
thing before the temple of God.
Okay,
God is judge. I'm not judge. No one
right,
else is. God is judge. So oftentimes that's why you have to, before you even do any deliverance or exorcism,
right,
you must pray over the people that are going to be present during that time,
okay,
because that demon or demons plural can actually jump
mm-hmm,
into those people, and you
right,
don't want that happening. And I've had
right,
situations where people have not been earnest enough with me or honest, and they've said, oh yeah, I prayed for protection, blah blah blah, and then all of a
right,
sudden they're not feeling so good, and I'm like, okay, I need you to step outside, I need you to get some fresh air, and then I got to stop whatever it is I'm doing
mm-hmm,
and trying to help this other person that we're there for, and help this other one that's been compromised. I've even taken myself out of situations where I feel I've been
right,
compromised,
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I need to excuse myself and go ground myself and pray.
Mhm. Yes.
You got to, the one thing you need to always do whenever you're doing something like that, you put your ego aside. You're not there for you. You're
Which
there for
sometimes,
someone else.
yeah, that's and sometimes some people find it very difficult to do that.
You
Put
know?
the ego take the ego out of the equation.
There's no ego in my name. There's no ego in what we do.
Yes.
And I'm telling you right now, if you're a person that's called to do this, but you're going in for the glory, you're going in for the fame
Yeah.
and fortune,
Yes.
please get out while you're at it, because you're going to do
Right.
someone some real harm in the
Of
end.
course. Plus yourself. I think
Exactly.
there's a boomerang effect at some point.
For sure. For sure.
For my podcast listeners, Rich, where can they find you at? What website?
Um, I'm trying to remember my website on
Say right
the
now.
internet, but I know that you can find me on Facebook, Demonologist Rich Valdes, or Rich
Okay.
Valdes Demonologist.
Okay.
And there's another website. I'm looking at my assistant right now, hoping she gives me the actual website that they can find me on. But she's kind of rubbing her head
Let me
like, "Oh
ask,
God."
are you
It'll be on your which one that's
Okay. It'll be connected to my Rich Valdez Demonologist on
okay.
Facebook,
Okay.
and you
All
can
right.
find me on what is that, Instagram, the real Rich Valdez,
Mhm.
and on Facebook. I have my own personal page, but I
Right, but
keep it personal.
the okay, you have 2 different,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand that, totally.
And if they want to watch the shows, they can always go to HBO Max to
Right.
travel. And if they can find a haunting, I also have an episode there too.
You do, okay.
Yes, yes. It's
I didn't know you appeared in A Haunting.
I believe it was season 9 that
Okay.
I was on. It's called Buried Secrets, the name of the episode, and that was one where I got actually harassed with, and I needed to step outside. I didn't get taken over, but I was harassed with, and I stepped outside because I
Mhm.
needed some fresh air. It was enough that I needed to ground myself again before I went back in to help the person. But that was an interesting case too.
Wow. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna put, the link to the credits of the show for the one for your Facebook. You gotta come back because you gotta finish that story, okay? Inquiring
Yeah.
minds need to know. You know how that goes, but let me tell you, I
Yeah.
wanna wish you now that well, you moving in, let me tell you something. I'm not kidding you, it took me, like, about a year. First of all, I downsized, which I think it's the other way around, but I downsized from my size, and it took me, like, a year to finally, after spending all your life in a part, in a town where you know everything and everybody, took me, like, a year to finally feel like, "Okay, I'm in the groove now again." So, yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to take us a year, but you know what? I think I'm better off being here than where I
sure, no,
was, because
absolutely. I get it. I get it, believe me.
it's like with everything, and I kind of touched on that with you earlier.
Yes,
I'm not going to
yes,
get on it
right.
on
But
your
yeah,
show, but I needed a fresh start. I kind of felt like a place that I could call my old stomping grounds, where I grew up and it formed who I am today.
sure.
I no longer felt welcome there, even by my family. So I had to leave, and I had to start my whole new life and new family away from where I had originally
But you know
started.
what? Sometimes, and this is just me throwing it out there,
Yeah.
sometimes in retrospect, as time goes by, you're gonna maybe look back at this and go, you know what? That's the best thing that could have happened. It
No,
was,
I honestly think it was. I
it'll
mean,
be like,
you're yeah, and it's in retrospect only.
yeah, I mean,
I
it's not
see it
now you're
coming.
like in the middle of it, but then sometimes how's this? As the emotion is out of it, because when you're all emotional, you see things a certain way. But as time goes by, then you look back and you realize, man, maybe that whatever happened was difficult, even moving. I tell everybody. But you look back and you go, it was worth it, and it was the best thing. It was a difficult thing, but it was the best thing.
I
All
agree.
right,
I agree.
and and sometimes, Rich, I hate to say it, sometimes we have certain things that we should have been doing all along, and we keep ignoring it. you know, until you get
Yeah,
kerplunked,
that
and
is true.
then but yeah, now you're a North Floridian, and are you ready? But this is gonna get cold in the next few days, by the way. Let me do my weather report at the end of the show.
I'm looking forward to that. I saw the report the other day. It was going to be in the 28s
Yeah,
here,
30
and
something
I was
around
like,
here. It's gonna be like 30. Yes.
I'm like, bring it on, man. I'm ready for that. I'm
Right. Then you
ready.
walk outside and you're like, wait a minute, let me get back inside.
No, 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 no. I love that kind of weather. I actually do.
Uh,
It's better than the
anyway,
humid heat for that
I know.
Miami
Let me tell you
offers.
something. That's one thing out here. There's no fruit trees, okay? There's no there's no
There's no
fruit.
Cuban food. There's no Cuban food up here.
Let me tell you something. I did what all Cubans do. When I moved up here, I brought a mango tree in a pot because that's what all Cubans do. I'm taking my mango
I
tree
brought
with
an avocado, a real avocado.
kiss it goodbye. It's like I said, up here, no, it's not. Unless you have a hot house or someplace, but nope, not meant out here. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Believe
No,
me, I've
no,
tried
no.
it.
I got a green thumb, and I brought that avocado, and I'm gonna plant that avocado
All right,
when
you and me
spring
will
comes
talk.
around.
Okay, all right, we'll talk, and then
For
then
real.
you'll tell me. Just be honest with me. Tell me the truth, and you were
I
right about
will.
the avocado tree.
I will. I will. I grew it from seed, from a pod. I literally took it
I
out.
okay.
It's. I gotta step back. It's about this big.
Be ready to put it somewhere where you could keep it. When that first drop, especially when you start getting into the 30s and it drops, it goes
Oh no, I'm waiting until spring.
okay, but still, all right, okay. Because even some that I bought that I waited like 2 years for hit the water table, and people are going, Marlene, what's the water table have to do with the paranormal? But wait a minute, okay, let me tell you. But you will we will speak again, grasshopper, okay, about fruit trees in northern Florida. No, they don't exist unless you like I said, you find like a nice little warm spot away from the wind. But we will talk again, okay?
For sure, for
Good
sure.
luck to you, Rich.
Thank you, Marlene.
Take care, sweetheart. Bye bye.
You too.
Wasn't that a great interview? Excuse me. That was a fantastic interview. And there's going to be part of it that was edited out because his microphone went belly up. It's really funny. I had the same experience with another guest that got brand new wireless, and they within minutes, for some reason, I don't care if they say it's good for 3 hours. Not really. But anyway, it's super interesting to speak to Rich because again, you know, because when you see some people when they do these paranormal shows, like he's done this one with Eli Roth and he's done other stuff, but when, like he said, that story, there was so much more to it than what they put in a 15-minute spot. There was a background, a backstory to it. And don't get me wrong, I understand that in certain circumstances, they they need to make money. They want to advertise, so hey, we got to squeeze this, whatever it is. But I want to say, and that's me being an idealist, that they kind of only put the parts in there that are sensational. All right. And sometimes it tells a story, but a lot of times it leaves out the most important parts because, whoever's producing the show is saying, we just want the sensational parts and we'll leave out the rest, which more than likely, most people would like to know about it. All right. They want it. They want the full Monty. Like, give me the story of how this happened, why it happened, during the before, the during, and the after, which is what I asked Rich about, which a lot of times people think that these situations where something's going on in their homes, whether they move into a place or they dabble in something, or like this example that he gave of this lady who becomes all caught up in digging up stuff in her house, whatever, however that they think that once that team comes in there and they do what they're going to do, that's it, it's done. Poof. You sprinkled the holy water, you smudged, you blessed, blah, 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 blah. Nope. There is something that comes with that you would think most people would be like, of course, what do you need me to do? I will do it. Pray. I will do it. I never want to have this experience or whatever came with it to be in my existence ever again. I'll do whatever it takes. All right. Some people don't do that. They don't. They just think, oh, they came, they did, it's gone. All right. Well, life back to normal. Case in point, even that example he gave of this lady, I'm sure, like he said, before you get there, they're desperate. Things are terrible. But when he gets to the ladies out clubbing, which probably it sounded like the most important person to have been there would have been her, which maybe, and almost, I didn't ask him, but I almost felt like, okay, she was a target person, right? And her going off clubbing is some of the ways of the manipulation of how to escape the intervention of a team. When the person, the most important person is there is like, because you're not going to tell me that this person could have said, you know what, I'm going to stay home. And no, probably that person was, and like, I'm not sure whether that was in a possession or whatever the case might be, that she decided now more than ever, I'm going to go clubbing. Why? And she went, maybe all of a sudden she was overcome with this undeniable desire. I've got to go. I've got to go out and dance and listen to music. And in reality, maybe she was being manipulated. One time I had a case where there was a young lady, and I've spoken about it before, and there was something there on that land, and there was also dark magic that was done very close to a crossroads, right at the corner of the yard of the same thing. It was a property with large like acreage, and the house was here, and on the corner it was a crossroads, and there was dark magic, and it bled over. But there was other stuff even from before the prior owners, not what they'd done, but anyway, when what we got there, she went into her bedroom. She would not come out, no matter what. And I tried talking to her through the door. I said, "Come out. I just want to ask you a question." Like, hey, nope, not coming out. What do you think that was? And by the way, we weren't going in there on an assumption of anything having to do with demons or demonic infestation or oppression or obsession. We had a teenager that looked like she was having concerning behavior, but again, that's not where you go when people, because like, and I'm sure Rich could clarify it. You go in there to some of these cases, and one, it could be mental mental illness, undiagnosed or diagnosed, a behavior disorder, or yeah, maybe something's going on, but it's not demonic. It might be a haunting. Maybe whatever was there was maybe a bad person in life, but it's not demonic per se. I mean, it doesn't, in other words, not every type of paranormal situation or when people are having experiences let's not go to the demon thing. There's other things. Or in this case, even like let's say that story of the lady where she's digging up arrowheads or something, and come to find out, she finds out, which I was curious to ask him, because sometimes they know there's a massacre because of the way that the bodies are found. In other words, they're not, even if they're Native Americans, they're not laid out like a proper burial. So they know, okay, this was some type of massacre and people were basically buried or where they fell. There's other times that the dead they're buried, but when you find a large amount of the bones that there's trauma, then that tells you, okay, these people were involved in some type of violence. Even if later on they were buried by whoever the survivors were, or their tribe, or whoever their people were, there's so many of them, because it happens to anybody. So many of them have evidence of trauma, whether it was men, women, or children, that you realize, okay, something happened here. And I didn't ask him what and maybe he wouldn't have known anyway, what those archaeologists found. But let's get back to the original point. Sometimes when the land experiences the trauma, not the person, the land experiences the trauma, then you do have repercussions for people that end up there. Especially, I hate to say, when whatever was there and her getting all like wound up, obsessed with, like, in other words, beyond curiosity, which is what I was telling him. You can dig up something and go curious and go, wow, what is this? But then when to the point that she's doing that and she's taking EVPs, it was like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh, this is not good. That right there is like, okay, it's all downhill from here. All right, it's all downhill from here. And yeah. So again, sometimes it's the land, sometimes it's a situation, sometimes, how's this? Sometimes those things wait for the right person to come along. In other words, and I don't know who this lady was that he was talking about, what her background was, what her history was. I don't know. But sometimes you could have, I'm going to say, maybe she had certain predisposition towards this, where any other person, same thing, they could have bought the piece of land, they would have dug up some things. They would say, oh, that's interesting. Wow. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. I left it at that. But then you have like almost like the perfect storm where the right person shows up. The right person is the one that, like he was saying, I have nothing better to go do. I'll just look out here and go, oh, look. And then all of a sudden, that's the entry point. That sometimes it's the question of who is the personality of the person that's there with whatever their background is, right? Whether something takes off or not. You know what? Any other person or couple could have bought that thing, never would have been done all the digging, and they might have lived there, no problems. Even if they found out that there was something that had gone on in that piece of land, maybe, maybe not, but they without that obsessive, compulsive digging and cataloging EVPs, nothing would have happened to somebody else. So sometimes it's like the ingredients that go into whatever is being made. And I'm going to tell you right now, because I've seen it, the deciding most important ingredient is who are the personalities that are there in that. Whether it's comes to nothing or blows up and it goes and it becomes ugly, really ugly. Okay. And I've told this story before, like when he said that thing about the book. Many years ago, I had somebody that, as a matter of fact, it was a big mansion. Was it Boca or somewhere in West Palm Beach? I drove. And we were doing like a preliminary, and they asked me with another investigator, and they go, look, just interview her and have him. This was, remember, this is pre-phone. This is no pre-digital. And the other investigator, he had a lot of really excellent cameras, and have him just go through the house, take pictures, and let's see what we'll come up with. Go over there and talk to this person and see what she tells you. Okay. And by the way, this house was huge. And I said this before. She was saying that she was getting writing across the mirrors and in like in soap film. Oh, okay. Then, like I said, she gives me this picture of her when you developed film. And this lady, for people that remember or know, there was certain times where you get the red eye, from the flash. And after I'm talking to her, I'm asking her what her experiences. She gives me that picture, and she's sitting at her dining room. Like if somebody's at their dining room table, and like if somebody calls your attention and you look up, there's a picture of her all serious, and she looks up, and she's got the red eye from the flash, which was, by the way, extremely common for those type of photographs. And I looked at it, and I'm looking at it. It's like, I'm looking at you, look really serious. She had one of those, I'm looking up, like under the eye, like you barely look up, like you look like that. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, she goes, look at my eyes. And I'm looking at it like, okay. And so all of a sudden I went, oh, I realized this lady's trying to tell me she's kind of partially possessed because she's got red eye from a flash, from a camera. And it's like, okay, lady, come on. I hate to say it, that's when people's credibility takes a dip. But again, my point being that I could go in a different direction with that. Let's say she started off. By the way, this house was brand new. This was a brand new development. The house, they were the first owners. As a matter of fact, they had moved from up north. Can't remember what state. I moved down. This was like, as a matter of fact, the development, there was still houses being built. Half were built, but there was brand new, nice, beautiful neighborhood. So it was like, okay, I know that there was not a prior house. I know that nobody's lived here as far as that. Well, did something happen here? No, not that. But let's go a different route. Let's say she decides I don't know what she was thinking. Of all the things, I'm possessed because I have red eye for my camera, but basically she's opening herself up in that direction. Okay. Something like what this lady's doing when she was digging up her yard. You don't think that by doing that, even if she was pretending or BSing, she was putting out a call to some dark entity to come and pay her a visit, human or non-human, I don't know. I got news for you. You better believe it. You better believe it. Okay. My point being that maybe something that started out as a goof for her, or I don't know what, or like, oh, I guess I'm gonna look like I want somebody to come and film me, because if I remember correctly, this was early 2000s. This was when reality shows was just starting to take off. They really weren't there. Like, that's why I'm saying, you still had to we had somebody running around with a nice 35 millimeter camera taking pictures inside the house. Let me see. God, Marlene. I think I have the pictures yet. I would have to go look. Let me see if I can find. Anyway, if you don't think that behavior, even if the person's intentions to begin with are not to, like, they might be thinking, I'm gonna see if I can get famous, or I can whatever. I don't know, whatever. If you don't think that sometimes people starting off with that, which I think you're a little bit off your nut, but okay, that's just my opinion. If you don't think that sometimes goes sideways in ways that you don't expect, I got news for you. Yes, it does, because basically you're saying, hey, you know what? I want to be haunted, and I want this and I want that. I'm even pretending. Let me see. Hold on. Was this it? West Palm Beach? No, was this West Palm Beach? Hold on, you guys. Let me see if I can. And I know the ones that are listening. Yeah. SDS investigation. Was this it? No, this was me doing something. Oh no, that was like in 2005. No, there's let me tell you something. When you do a lot of investigations like what I've done, after, not that they become a blur, but your Lake Worth. Was that Lake Worth? Was this it, Marlene? You kind of like, yeah, like, I know that this happened and that happened, but this is this Charlie. Let me see. He was the God. I want to say this is it. Hold on a minute. Let me take a look at these pictures. I believe there was one that I had of, because this house was huge and it had these huge bathrooms, and of course the mirrors, they had like these, side to side, to the ceiling, to the bottom of the vanity, mirrors that were huge. And she's saying, hey, something supposedly is writing in soap film across this mirror. Like, in other words, that whatever was there was communicating. There's the one. Okay. This is from, oh, okay. This was from 2005. That's what I mean. You know what? I'll bring it up next. my next show. I'll bring it up. I'll have those pictures ready. Those are from 2005. That's what I'm saying. My point being that sometimes when people go into this, sometimes on a lark, or especially when they want to give it a dark aspect, they really don't know what they're opening the door to. Okay. And hopefully and I'm not going to say this happens instantaneously. It's like, poof, I was pretending I had red eye, but it doesn't but if you persist in that and you persist in that, and even gets to the point that you even convince yourself, all of a sudden then it goes from pretending to reality. And then at some point, and I'm going to give the example of that case I told you, it's not like I have to make this up. Then all of a sudden she'll start getting manifestations in the house. And then she'll be like, what? You mean it's not me BSing anymore? Yeah. And that's the way sometimes how these things happen. Because people open the door and it's like, what's that saying? Be careful what you wish for kind of deal. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this interview with Rich Valdes. I'm going to put a link to his website on Facebook in the credits of the show. Sign up for my newsletter on Substack. Go to mppellicer.com, MiamiGhostChronicles.com. By the way, you can find all my podcasts on my website, but I have them also on Spreakers. You can go to eeriepodcast.com. And if you go there, it has all my different shows also on Spreaker, the podcast version, whether it's Eerie News, Stories of the Supernatural, nightshadediary.com. In other words, in one spot, even if they're all on my website, but you have to look for them. But if you want to go to one spot where you can see, you go to that link that I have, eeriepodcast.com, and you will find all the different shows there. And you can download if you want to listen, or right there, or just click it. The only thing is you're going to get commercial interruptions. What can I say? There's no escaping that, guys. But anyway, yeah. And by the way, I'm hoping to finally release my last book called The Crimson Servants, book 3 of the Sibyl Chronicles. I'm aiming for the end of this year, the beginning of next. This book is about to come into about 400 pages, which means my editing and everything it's monumental. All right. So I'll keep you guys abreast of that book, The Crimson Servants, book 3 of the Sibyl Chronicles, when it comes out and when I put it probably on pre-order for Amazon. But yeah, it's one of those, I never thought if somebody would have told me you're going to write a 400-page book, I'd be like, no. But yes, I have. So anyway, guys, thanks again for being part of my audience. I will be back with you next week. Again, I have some great guests coming on. A lot of interesting things going on in the world. And it's always weird out there. Till next time, take care.